I am clearly the #1 divine emperor of the cultivation world. Yet, this place is full of magical girls all over the streets, but I completely look down on them with disdain. In my eyes, no matter how powerful one's magic becomes, can it ever surpass a cultivator? Even the strongest mage, in my sight, is nothing more than a slightly stronger ant, only because in the great war of gods and demons, in my past life, I single-handedly slaughtered the 10 great demon gods, ultimately burning out my own life force and falling in battle. Guarding the immortal realm for thousands of years was truly too exhausting. In this life, I want to live a bit more comfortably. That is why I chose to lie flat and slack off. Right now, inside a certain apartment, it has already been 16 years since I was reborn into this world. Today happens to be the second month of the summer vacation after graduating from middle school. Planet Blue does not have any cultivators. However, there exists a special kind of being known as mages. The status of a mage is just like that of a cultivator in a fantasy world. But I have absolutely no interest in any magic. No matter how strong this so-called magic is trained to be, can it ever surpass a cultivator? I have already reached the late core formation stage, and I wonder when I will be able to break through to the nascent soul stage. Being only 16 years old and already breaking through to this realm would make me an absolute genius, even in the fantasy world of my past life. Opening a bottle of cola, I lie on the sofa, drinking the soda while watching anime. This kind of leisurely life is exactly what I want. However, right at this moment, the front door is suddenly kicked open. "You annoying brother, can you stop staying cooped up at home and go outside to do some activities for once?" Turning my head to look at my cousin, Yuki, I flip her the middle finger. "Little girl, why do you care about me? You don't understand the happiness of an otaku." Yuki is my younger cousin. We have been living together for a long time, ever since my mother went away on a business trip. Usually only the two of us are left in the house. "Annoying brother, there is only 1 month left before school starts. Don't you want to get good grades in Magic High School, get into a good university, marry a beautiful, rich girl, and finally reach the pinnacle of life? No. A life without slacking off is like cola without bubbles. To think someone actually wants me to strive hard? Strive for what exactly? In my past life, I fought covertly and overtly with demon gods for thousands of years just to guard the immortal realm, fighting for a lifetime. Can I just enjoy myself now? Now that it is so hard-won for me to be able to slack off, why should I go and strive?" Hearing this made Yuki even angrier. In the end, she unexpectedly turned off the TV by force, kicked me out of the house, and declared that I was not allowed back before 6 o'clock in the evening. After closing the door, Yuki let out a helpless sigh and began to ponder ways to change my otaku nature. Meanwhile, I had already entered an internet cafe. It didn't matter where I stayed cooped up, an internet cafe would do just fine. Net cafe admin, log me in. I slapped down my ID card, but the screen showed a balance of 0. "How much are you topping up? Right now, if you top up 100, you get 300 free. Ever since my mother went on her business trip, the living expenses at home have all been in my cousin Yuki's hands. It wasn't just that I was penniless right now. I was so broke that I didn't even have a single feather to my name. Right now, I didn't even have 100 yen. I complained inwardly, then looked toward the young lady at the front desk. "Miss, do you know where one can make money the fastest right now?" "Of course it's by becoming a hunter," the net cafe admin girl replied with a face full of yearning and admiration. "A hunter?" I froze for a moment upon hearing this. I had heard of this profession before. It involves mages forming teams to hunt down monsters or complete missions to earn commissions. With my strength, taking a few requests means I won't have to worry about internet fees anymore. By the time the net cafe admin girl snapped out of her admiring daydream, I was already nowhere to be seen. Pangchang is a second-tier city, so naturally, it also has a Monster Hunter Association, and there are quite a lot of people here. To become a hunter, one must join a team and obtain a hunter qualification, thereby becoming an official hunter. Squeezing into the crowd, I randomly looked for a team. Seeing my complete otaku appearance, they rejected me directly without even asking a question. "Little brother, the Hunter Association is not a place for a child like you to come." Only then did I realize that I am currently only 16 years old. What kind of hunter could I possibly be? But it wasn't a big deal. I went to the restroom, manipulated the spiritual energy inside my body, and quickly used it to forge a black mask to wear on my face. The pitch-black mask only revealed my eyes and had patterns on it. It could also conceal the spiritual energy on my body, making it very difficult to see clearly unless one looked closely. Looking around, I quickly found a new target. This was a hunter team that no one was paying attention to. A beautiful woman around 30 years old who had a scar on her face and a handsome air about her was sitting at the recruitment booth smoking a cigarette. The sign in front of her read, "Recruiting teammates. Lightning attribute hunters only. The lightning attribute is the strongest among all elements, capable of easily ignoring defenses to inflict maximum damage. However, being powerful also means being rare. Lightning attribute hunters with even a little bit of fame had long been snatched up. Naturally, I am not a lightning attribute mage. The element I awakened is fire, but that wasn't a big deal either. Who ruled that only lightning attribute mages could control electricity? I am a cultivator, and I know a thing or two about all attributes. I walked up to the scarred woman and asked tentatively in a raspy voice, "Do you still need lightning mages?" Don't tell me you're a lightning mage." The scarred woman was slightly surprised, looking up to size me up. I merely nodded in response, and then I suddenly clenched my palm. Instantly, a dazzling flash of lightning appeared in my hand. The crackling sound of electricity rang out continuously, causing an immediate uproar in the surroundings. Could this be the legendary Wild Lightning Mage? The surrounding crowd all looked toward me in astonishment. To think they actually struck luck by pure chance and encountered a lightning attribute mage who wanted to be a hunter. Without any surprises, I successfully blended into a team called the Skyhawk Monster Hunting Team. Just call me Momiji. I am Shizuka, the vice captain of the Skyhawk Monster Hunting Team. Welcome to our team. I followed Shizuka to their lounge in the Hunter Association. Including me, there were 10 people in total. Everyone was extremely excited upon hearing that a lightning mage had joined. My name is Daiichi. I am the captain of the Skyhawk Monster Hunting Team. I am very glad to have you join us. This was a robust and tall, middle-aged man. The scars on his face and arms narrated his glorious battle achievements over the years. After conversing with everyone for a bit, we could be considered familiar with each other. And someone curiously asked why I was wearing a mask. My explanation was that my face had been burned in an accident, and I was afraid of scaring people outside. Everyone instantly assumed I had some unfortunate past experience, so they did not pursue the question any further. Brother, our hunting team has picked up a mission to hunt a mid-tier demon beast. Do you want to come along with us? Daiichi was not clear about my strength, so he did not dare to rashly bring me along to join the actual combat. Is there any signing on fee for joining? I don't have money to go to the internet cafe, so I wanted to join a hunting team to make some money. Hearing these words, everyone's jaws dropped in shock. A lightning mage with limitless potential was actually infatuated with computers. Daiichi's eyes narrowed, and he instantly realized that this lightning mage in front of him must be someone who had given up on himself. How could such talent be wasted? He had to bring me along on this mission, using battle to make me realize just how important true strength is. Thinking of this, Daiichi cleared his throat. How about this? Our mission this time will only take a few hours. Come with us. We will protect you. Consider it an assessment and tempering of your character. After you pass, I will give you a signing-on fee of 30,000 yen. What do you think? If you have money, say it earlier. Forget about 30,000. I would have gone with you for even 3,000. These words left everyone thoroughly dumbfounded. Good grief, they had offered way too high a price. The mission the Skyhawk Monster Hunting Team accepted was to hunt a mid-tier demon serpent. The demon serpent was located in a desolate area 10 miles outside of Pengcheng. That place used to be a development zone, but it had been abandoned because monsters frequently appeared there in recent years. 2 vans pulled over on the highway by the desolate area. Daiichi and Shizuka took the lead in getting out of the car, and the others followed, one after another, heading deep into the woods ahead. Yawning, I followed at the back of the team with a completely indifferent expression. Noticing my lazy behavior, Daiichi naturally looked down on me even more. How could such a promising young prospect have so little ambition? He must train him well. Inside the forest, some ordinary monsters like demon rats and demon insects would also appear. But these were naturally not taken seriously and were quickly eliminated. The woods ahead came to an end, and we quickly arrived at an open, half-developed and abandoned construction site. The demon serpent we are looking for is inside. If we just walk in like this, we will definitely be ambushed. I suddenly spoke up, stopping everyone in their tracks. Hearing this, Daiichi knit his brows and looked at me with some suspicion. Even he, a mid-tier 10-star mage, had not detected any trace of the demon serpent. How could a mere primary tier mage like me discover it? However, my words did serve as a reminder to him. This stretch of the journey had been abnormally quiet. Originally, there were quite a few monsters here, but now it was this peaceful, meaning they had clearly entered the territory of the demon serpent. Whole team on alert. Daiichi's words made everyone become vigilant. Facts proved that what I said was not wrong. Just as we walked into the open space filled with abandoned cars ahead, a 20-meter-long black python suddenly rushed out. A pair of red eyes stared intently at us as the giant python opened its mouth and spat out venom. "Quick dodge!" Daiichi shouted loudly, and everyone hurriedly scrambled out of the way. The venom hissed loudly as it splashed onto the ground, causing everyone to swallow their saliva in fear. "Your opponent is me!" Daiichi roared. Waving his hands, a large amount of flames transformed into 2 fiery serpents, sweeping toward the demon serpent ahead. However, the demon serpent did not care at all. With a whip of its body, the flames were extinguished on the spot, its black python body acting like a whip. Daiichi leaped into midair and crashed heavily back down, his iron hands firmly grabbing onto the demon serpent's body. Combining fire attribute magic with martial arts, this style made up for a mage's lack of close-quarters combat and the weaknesses of range consumption. I nodded inwardly. This was my first time seeing a melee mage fight with my own eyes, so I could not help but feel a bit curious. The battle erupted instantly, and everyone else began to use various types of magic to attack. Only at this moment did I discover that everyone here was actually a mid-tier mage possessing 2 attributes. It looked like I had stumbled into a top-tier monster hunting team. However, if this was all the strength they had, it would probably not be enough to deal with this demon serpent. "Vile beast, die!" Daiichi jumped into midair, and his iron fist smashed down heavily, striking the top of the demon serpent's head. A resounding boom echoed through the abandoned construction site. It hit! Fantastic! Someone in the team had already started to cheer, but the cheering came to an abrupt halt. Hiss! A more terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the demon serpent's body. Its tail whipped around and coiled tightly around Daiichi, who was above its head, with a speed that surpassed everyone's imagination. Shizuka transformed into a streak of golden light, wanting to save the captain using her light attribute magic, but she was struck by the serpent's tail instead. The speed of the demon serpent was unexpectedly even faster than hers. Shizuka could not believe it. Was this really just a mid-tier demon serpent? With a loud crash, Shizuka and Daiichi were sent flying and crashed to the ground at the same time. Both were severely injured. They tried to stand up, but simply could not. Hiss! The demon serpent let out another hiss, and the side of its body suddenly began to split apart. Before everyone's astonished eyes, it actually grew a second serpent head. It had broken through its limits to become a high-tier demon beast, the twin-headed demon serpent. Holy crap, a twin-headed demon serpent! Everyone run! A high-tier demon beast was simply not something this team could fight against. The team instantly fell into a panic. "Don't worry about me! I'll hold off this demon serpent, you guys run!" Daiichi forced his body up to stand. Now was the time for him to fulfill his duty as the captain. Shizuka also stood up at this moment. Facing a twin-headed demon serpent whose strength was enough to crush them, she had no intention of backing down either. Being able to die in battle was her honor as a mage. The other 7 team members also looked at one another. Although everyone was trembling with fear, not a single person ran away. "What are you all still standing there for? Run!" Just as Daiichi finished speaking, the newly grown head of the twin-headed demon serpent violently opened its mouth and spat out a line of fire. The fire was not a normal color, but rather a pitch-black demonic flame. Seeing this situation, Daiichi and Shizuka also hurriedly took up defensive stances. They could not retreat. If they did, the teammates behind them would be in danger. After all, the others were only 2-star or 3-star mages, while they were 8-star and 9-star. What a hassle. A slightly helpless and lazy, raspy voice sounded. A figure appeared before their eyes at some unknown point. It was none other than me. The 2 of them were pale with fright. What was a primary tier doing coming over here? Facing a high-tier demon beast was no different from seeking death. Even a full-starred mid-tier mage would not dare to recklessly take it head-on. However, something that shocked them even more occurred. I saw that I merely raised my right hand lightly, and the originally raging black flames abruptly vanished. Following that, I brought 2 fingers together and pointed. With a tremendous, booming crash, a bolt of purple lightning cascaded down from the heavens. Tashka, the twin-headed demon serpent, which had been flaunting its might just a moment ago, was instantly enveloped by the purple lightning, emitting continuous sizzling sounds as it let out miserable cries. In a flash, the lightning vanished, and the twin-headed demon serpent fell to the ground, already charred to a crisp. Everyone was completely stupefied. Finishing up and heading home, I clapped my hands, looking completely calm and unbothered. How could the members of the Skyhawk monster hunting team not realize by now that this newcomer was no rookie at all? He was simply a powerhouse playing the fool. 10 minutes later, the group finished resting and recuperating, and everyone began to accept the reality that I was a hidden powerhouse. Daiichi walked up to the corpse of the twin-headed demon serpent, pulled out a blank card, and with a heavy sweep of his hand, A ball of black mist entered the card. Curious, I asked, what is that thing? You don't even know what a magic card is? Daichi was completely dumbfounded. A high-tier mage didn't even know about magic cards? I shook my head. I really don't. Shizuka walked over at this moment to explain, magic cards can absorb the energy from a monster's corpse. With this card, you can use that monster's innate magical ability. However, usually the stronger the magical ability is, the fewer times it can be used, and its cooldown time is also longer. A realization dawned on me. So, such a convenient item actually existed. Daichi tossed the magic card in his hand over to me. This twin-headed demon serpent was slain by you, so this card belongs to you. Captain, this thing isn't of much use to me. You guys fight powerful monsters regularly, so it suits you far better than me. If possible, I would rather have a few blank magic cards instead. Hearing this, Daichi didn't hesitate either. He took back the card and handed me a thick stack of blank magic cards. The group finished processing the corpse of the twin-headed demon serpent and prepared to leave. But I did not get into the van. Young man, aren't you coming with us? Shizuka asked, somewhat puzzled. I simply waved my hand and said nothing. Let's go, guys. Our brother definitely has some matters left to handle here, so it's not appropriate for us to stick around. Daichi tactfully drove away. He wasn't stupid. How could a high-tier demon serpent suddenly appear out of nowhere near a second-tier city? It was blatantly obvious that someone had deliberately placed it here. I then raised my head to look at a spot not too far away. I really don't like talking to people who hide in the shadows. Your perception is actually sharp enough to detect even me? Since when did a high-tier mage like you appear in Pengcheng? A robed figure slowly emerged from the dark shadows. On Planet Blue, there exists a faction that aligns itself with monsters. Through secret techniques, they grant themselves greater power, turning into half-human, half-monster abominations. These individuals are called fiends, and they are the most reviled existences in this world. However, you might be strong, but I am definitely stronger than you. As the robed man finished speaking, a violent surge of magical energy began to radiate from his body. Looking at the robed man, and then looking at the gradually darkening sky, I realized I had to hurry back. If I stayed out too late, there wouldn't be any open computers left at the internet cafe, and today happened to be the day my new anime episodes released. I don't have time to mess around with you. I need to get back and see my anime waifus. I formed a hand seal, and a bolt of heavenly lightning instantly cascaded down. The robed man, who had been flaunting his power just a second ago, was reduced to ashes in an instant. 2.5 hours later, 2 more robed individuals arrived at the exact same location. Looking at the personal belongings scattered on the ground that still crackled with residual electricity, they were completely stupefied. Who on earth killed their companion? Since when did a powerhouse capable of silently wiping out their comrade appear in Pengcheng? Their companion was a high-tier mage himself. Half a month later, at the Wangyu Internet Cafe, a teenage boy was being forcibly dragged out of the door by a young girl. Annoying, brother, come home with me. School starts tomorrow, so you absolutely must come back today to pack your things. I want to play games. I want to watch anime. I don't want to go to school. Over the past half a month, I had become a legendary regular at the Internet Cafe, practically treating the place like my own home. Yuki had only managed to track me down recently. Because her annoying brother hadn't come home for over half a month, she had been worried to the point of a near breakdown. She had come over to persuade me a few times before, but since school started tomorrow, she absolutely had to drag me home today. In complete despair and misery, I watched the Internet Cafe, which I viewed as paradise, gradually vanish from my line of sight. I was sleeping soundly, having not yet woken up from a beautiful dream, when a pair of slender, delicate hands suddenly wrapped firmly around my throat. Annoying brother, hurry up and get out of bed. I'm getting up! I'm getting up! I'll get up right now! Under Yuki's severe coercion, I voluntarily got out of bed. Today was the first day of school. Yuki and I were in the same grade, and both of us had been admitted to the Pengcheng Second Magic High School. Urged on by Yuki, I could only put on my clothes, finish washing up, and reluctantly prepare to head to school. Unlike Yuki, who usually walked to school with her friends, I was far too lazy to walk. If I could take a taxi, I would absolutely never move my legs. Consequently, I arrived at the school a step ahead of Yuki. Ever since I awakened as a mage, I hadn't practiced at all. My data profile registered me as a primary tier 1-star mage, so I was assigned to the lowest performing class. Meanwhile, Yuki was at 6 stars, successfully landing her a spot in the elite class. Thank goodness I wasn't in the same class as her. For the first class of the term, I was arranged to sit in the very back row right next to the window. Having such a prized seat in the back row by the window, if I didn't use it to sleep, I would be doing a massive disservice to the location. While I was fast asleep, the homeroom teacher had already begun a long, tedious lecture. The homeroom teacher was a young and beautiful woman who looked like she had just recently arrived at the second high school, and had been forced to take over this troubled class. I am your homeroom teacher. My name is Ran. I am a mid-tier ice attribute mage. Wearing a black teacher's uniform, Ran exuded a strong, mature, feminine charm. It inevitably caused the hearts of most of the teenage boys in the classroom, who were experiencing their first stirrings of love, to flutter. Naturally, that group did not include me, because I was sleeping. The midterm exams are in 2 months. I hope you all will show outstanding performance by then, as that is the only way to get into a good magic university. The homeroom teacher, Ran, spoke continuously. Suddenly, she noticed me sleeping in the back row. Good grief, a student actually dared to sleep during her very first class. Who could possibly tolerate this? Ran walked angrily over to my desk. The entire class began to offer silent prayers for me, thinking this guy was completely finished. "Student, what is your name?" I opened my eyes in a daze, took a glance at Ran, and replied, "My name is Yo. Is there something you need, teacher?" "Yo, if I remember correctly, you are a primary tier 1-star mage, right? Even though your starting point is low, that is no excuse for you to give up on yourself." Ran advised me with earnest well-meaning, though it sounded as repetitive as a monk chanting scriptures. Unable to withstand the nagging any longer, I could only speak up to beg for mercy, claiming that I would definitely study hard in the future and strive to become a high-tier mage. "Teacher, it's useless, no matter what you say to him. I went to the same middle school as him. He was already exactly like this back then, and absolutely nobody can get through to him." A boy who looked like a bit of a rogue suddenly spoke up. He was sitting not far from my side, a former middle school classmate named Hiroto. Hiroto wasn't a bad guy at heart. He just had a bit of a sharp tongue. Hearing this, Ran was taken aback for a moment, and then she looked at me with an incredibly serious expression. Meanwhile, beneath the desk, I politely flipped Hiroto the middle finger. Hiroto merely smirked and said nothing more. "Yo, if you had awakened a useless talent, I wouldn't say much. But you are a fire attribute mage, which means your future is limitless. I really do not want to see you throw your life away. How about this? If you can reach 5 stars before the midterm exams, I will give you a magical tool as a reward." "A magical tool?" Hearing this, I instantly became interested. Magical tools were highly similar to the magical treasures of the cultivation world, and up until now, I didn't possess a single magical tool. "That's right, a magical tool. I am a woman of my word," Rand said with a serious face, looking completely genuine. In reality, under normal circumstances, rare elements like fire would always be placed in the elite class. As a teacher who had just recently graduated from university, Ran understood the sheer value of a fire attribute mage all too well. Therefore, she couldn't bear to stand by and watch such a promising mage waste away due to self-abandonment. Afterwards, Ran resumed her lecture, and I didn't go back to sleep. After school concluded, I didn't head home. Instead, I made my way to the designated meeting spot agreed upon with the Skyhawk monster hunting team. That's right, we had picked up another mission. When passing through a small alleyway, the storage ring on my finger vibrated slightly. My regular clothes transformed into a black casual outfit, and the death god mask reappeared on my face. This storage ring was made after I accidentally came across a spatial stone upon arriving in this world. Refining it allowed me to forge this storage ring. Aside from offering limitless storage space, it also possessed a powerful life-saving mechanism, spatial teleportation. However, since I had no control over where it would teleport me, I would absolutely never use it unless it was a matter of life and death. After meeting up with the Skyhawk monster hunting team, I noticed that everyone's expressions were exceptionally heavy. "Brother Momiji, I am truly sorry to trouble you this time. The direwolf pack in the mountains near Pengcheng suddenly mobilized collectively, completely surrounding the city. Every single monster hunting team has been ordered to head out and cull them. Daiichi knew that a high-tier powerhouse like me absolutely detested dealing with trouble, so they generally wouldn't call upon me unless it was an absolute emergency. This time, they simply had no other choice." I merely nodded and didn't say much. The Hunter Association was packed to the brim with people. All the monster hunting teams in Pengcheng had been gathered together to be assigned their combat strategies. The military is guarding the city walls, so it will be incredibly difficult for the dire wolf pack to breach our defenses. However, a cornered beast will fight desperately. If this drag on for too long, it will not only cause a shortage of supplies, but it will also likely cause panic among the residents of Pengcheng. Therefore, our top priority is to swiftly annihilate the dire wolf pack. For Pengcheng! For humanity! The president of the Hunter Association, Kenji, shouted loudly while placing his hand over his heart. All the hunters simultaneously mirrored the gesture, beginning to let out their passionate blood as every single monster hunting team mobilized. Outside Pengcheng at night, the battle had already been raging for 2.5 hours. The Skyhawk monster hunting team was responsible for an area mostly populated by low-tier dire wolves. Occasionally, a few mid-tier demon wolves would appear, but they were all systematically taken down by the team. While fighting the demon wolves, everyone would glance toward a certain direction from time to time. They all understood that the true outcome of this battle was not decided by them, but by the high-tier mages, who were locked in a life-or-death struggle against the dire Wolf King. All 5 of Peng Cheng's high-tier mages had mobilized, yet after 2.5 hours of fighting, a victor had still not emerged. The dire Wolf King let out a howling roar. Its massive 2.5-meter-tall frame was covered in white demonic markings, as over a dozen wind blades simultaneously whistled through the air. The 5 high-tier mages fought desperately to block the attack. Kenji, the president of the Hunter Association, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Although his large, imposing frame looked somewhat battered, his grand presence remained intact. With a wave of his palm, countless sharp blades materialized out of thin air, emitting continuous breaking sounds as they whistled furiously toward the dire Wolf King. Not only that, but at the exact moment the blades appeared, the ground beneath the dire Wolf King collapsed, and countless thick vines sprouted out, binding the dire Wolf King securely. As a high-tier mage, Kenji possessed 3 attributes: metal, wood, and earth. The other high-tier mages also continuously unleashed their magic to launch assaults on the dire Wolf King. However, no matter how hard they tried to attack, the dire Wolf King was not only unharmed, but it actually carried a look of complete disdain. A wolf howl shook heaven and earth as the dire Wolf King violently broke free from its restraints and instantly split into 5 distinct figures. This was one of the dire Wolf King's innate magical abilities, cloning. These clones each possessed half the strength of the original body. The situation, which originally featured many humans against a single foe, instantly inverted into a complete one-sided slaughter. Only at this moment did they discover that this dire Wolf King was unexpectedly a peak, high-tier existence. If it weren't for its bloodline limitations, becoming a supreme-tier beast in the future would not be impossible. But the greatest issue right now was that even the strongest among the 5 mages, Kenji, was only a high-tier 6-star mage. How were they supposed to fight this? They finally understood one thing. This dire Wolf King had been intentionally hiding its true strength all along to toy with them. In the shadows, 2 robed individuals watching this scene couldn't help but let out a series of sinister, cackling laughs. Yes, exactly like that. Let these people feel absolute despair. Once the dire Wolf King slaughters these 5, we will directly breach Peng Cheng before the other cities can even react. It's all thanks to our organization deploying agents to lure away the military powerhouse of Peng Cheng. Otherwise, our plan would have been truly difficult to pull off. Right now, nearly all of Peng Cheng's top combat forces are gathered here. Getting them to cluster together really wasted an enormous amount of time. In that time, I could have gone and gotten my nails done. The male and female robed figures smiled at each other, wearing the expressions of victors. However, very quickly, their smiles froze. "What kind of joke are you two sharing? Say it out loud so I can enjoy it too." A raspy voice suddenly echoed from right behind them. The 2 robed individuals turned around in sheer terror, only to see a man wearing a death god mask standing behind them at some unknown point. Reacting instantly, the 2 robed figures simultaneously unleashed 2 magical attacks of ice and fire. However, with a gentle flick of my finger, the fire was extinguished, and the ice chains shattered instantly. It looks like you 2 are the masterminds behind this. You've caused me to be unable to go home and play games on time today? Do you have any idea how massive of a loss that is to me? A terrifying pressure began to emanate from my body. Terrified out of their wits, the 2 turned around and fled. Wind and light, the 2 fastest attributes for escaping, felt incredibly slow at this moment. They watched helplessly as I took step after step, walking through the empty air right up to their faces. "Run! Why aren't you running anymore?" With a gentle sweep of my arm, 2 wind blades whistled out. Before the 2 robed individuals could even react, the wind blades directly shattered all of their defensive measures. 2 heads fell to the ground like sliced watermelons, instantly turning to ash. All the interesting items on their bodies flew directly into my hands. Looking at the thousands of yen inside their wallets, my face beneath the mask completely creased with laughter. Your boy is finally rich. Stowing the wallets away safely, I checked their magic card pouches and found a good number of magic cards. Not bad, I could take these back for my collection. I now had a brand new hobby, which was collecting magic cards. I was no longer just an anime otaku. I had officially become a card collector. Looking toward the dire Wolf King not far away, my very first peak high-tier 10-star magic card was practically delivering itself to me, wasn't it? Boom! Kenji crashed heavily to the ground. Facing the original body of the dire Wolf King, he had been utterly defeated, and the others hadn't fared any better either. Watching the dire Wolf King draw closer and closer, it was the first time in his life he felt death standing so close to him. No, I can't fall down yet. Kenji struggled to force his body back up to stand. If he fell here, there would be no one left to protect the thousands of lit windows of the homes behind him. Just when Tagaki was preparing for a desperate final struggle to the death, a dark shadow suddenly flashed in front of him. A wise punch. The majestic Tier 10 high-rank Azure Wolf Demon King instantly collapsed under this single blow. His entire skeleton shattered into pieces. In the face of absolute strength, all defensive measures are nothing but empty talk. The Azure Wolf Demon King's energy was absorbed by a magic card, and then the figure instantly teleported away. The entire process didn't even take 10 seconds. Before anyone could react to what that dark shadow was, holy crap, when did Peng Ching get such a super rank existence? The battle ended in such a confusing, muddled manner. By the time I got home, it was already midnight. I originally intended to sneak back into my room undetected. Who would have guessed I'd run straight into my cousin Yuki, who was waiting for me in the living room with a face full of rage. "You went to the internet cafe again, didn't you?" If I say I didn't go to the internet cafe, would you believe me? I'd believe a ghost before I believe you. You're a bad older brother. Yuki was absolutely furious, unleashing a barrage of punches and kicks on me. She was just frustrated that I wasn't living up to my potential. Clearly, her older brother had better talent than her. So why didn't he have a single shred of ambition? A month later, under Yuki's coercion and enticement, I finally awakened my 4th star. Being able to awaken 4 stars in just 1 month showed just how high my magic talent really was. Back at school, a new classmate joined the class named Kanji. He was a heavily built, somewhat fierce-looking, dark-skinned youth with a scar on his face, and he was a metal element mage. During the school's practical combat class, Kanji and I were seatmates, so the two of us were paired up as a group. Out of 42 students in the class, there were 21 groups in total. Except for the two of us guys being grouped together, the other 19 groups were all male-female pairings. We were drowning in pure envy and jealousy. That's fine. In a fight, a bro is way more reliable than a woman. Kanji clenches his fist to pump me up. I felt completely numb inside. After the grouping was finished, everyone began talking. The homeroom teacher, Ranbu, focused her gaze primarily on me. She wanted to see what my current strength was and whether I had reached the 5-star level she had anticipated. As a promising fire element prospect, he absolutely could not be ruined under her watch. Perhaps because she was too anxious to see my strength, Ranbu arranged for Group 1 and Group 2 to face each other in a duel. Group 1 consisted of the 2 most outstanding students in the class, who were already primary rank 6-star mages just 2 months after the school year started. Sune-e, Wood Element, and Kyushu, Wind Element. And Group 12, without a doubt, was the bottom-tier pairing consisting of me and Kanji. Kyushu had long been curious about the fierce-looking Kanji. He wanted to see Kanji's strength, and the tension between the two of them was thick with gunpowder. Meanwhile, I stretched my arms quite boredly. This unintentional action of mine instantly drew the dissatisfaction of Suna. Despising me? What an arrogant fool, she thought with deep disdain. She refused to believe that a guy who was only at 1 star 2 months ago could catch up to her. After reaching the primary rank 5-star level, the difficulty of awakening each subsequent star multiplied. Many students were at 5 stars when they enrolled, yet they failed to break through to become intermediate rank mages even by the time they graduated high school. Seeing that the atmosphere between both sides had reached a boiling point, Ranbu wasted no words and directly announced the start of the battle. A few minutes before the fight began, Mairu and Tenra had already set up a betting pool. Except for the 2 of them, all the other students bet that Group 12 would lose. They thought this was practically free money, so they wagered almost all of their allowance on the bet. Knowing the true strength of the 2 fighters, the duo laughed like crazy in their hearts. What a bunch of idiots, you'll be crying in a moment. If they passed up such an opportunity to rake in cash, it would truly weigh heavily on their treacherous merchant hearts. The moment the sparring match began, Kanji gave a loud shout and fiercely charged toward Kyushu. It happened so suddenly. Kyushu hurriedly utilized his wind power to boost his speed, narrowly dodging the punch swung by Kanji. "Leave this guy to me, and you handle that chick. You got it!" Kaede stretched his arms and then, transforming into a flash of fire, rushed toward Suna. Suna was greatly shocked. She hurriedly summoned wooden vines to form a shield. "Break for me!" Kaede's hands were enveloped in flames as he threw a punch forward. With a loud crash, a gaping hole was blasted right through the wooden vine shield. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kanji continuously manifested various metal throwing knives and hurled them at Kyushu. Kyushu's speed naturally slowed down because he kept dodging. Seizing the perfect timing, Kanji used his magic to create a metal baseball bat and gripped it tightly in his hand. "Take this!" Whack! The baseball bat struck the wind wall with a deafening thud. Immediately following was a sharp cracking sound. Kyushu was hit squarely by the baseball bat and was sent flying backward. Fortunately, Ranbu's reaction speed was very fast. She caught Kyushu and used healing element magic to help restore his injuries. The battle on Kanji's side was over, but Kaede's battle was still ongoing. Sune hurriedly channeled her magic, causing vines to continuously sprout from the ground to attack Kaede. However, Kaede, in his Fire Fist state, blasted a hole through them with every single punch, forcing Sukinga to retreat repeatedly. At this point, she was completely dumbfounded. What kind of mage is this? Aren't fire element mages supposed to stand at the back of the team and deal massive damage from afar? Why is this guy playing a close-quarters melee game? Not far away, Kanji sat on the ground, pulling out a pack of spicy strips from somewhere, watching the scene with great interest. It was highly obvious that he had no intention of stepping in. Kaede leaped into midair, and Suno felt this was a golden opportunity. 5 or 6 wooden vines appeared around her body, attempting to bind the airborne Kaede. However, out of nowhere, Kaede's right leg was covered in flames at that exact moment. This move was the Diabe Jambe he had learned from Sanji. The flames instantly incinerated the wooden vines. The brilliant, dazzling red fire was now shining brightly in Sunake's field of vision. This was the very first time she felt herself standing so incredibly close to death. However, Kaede suddenly held back his foot in mid-air. After landing on the ground, he said, "Looks like I win." The entire arena fell dead silent, followed by the collective sound of everyone drawing in a sharp breath. This Kaede and Kanji were purely 2 violent maniacs. The way these 2 mages fought? These 2 are probably devils, right? Furthermore, what kind of magic did Kaede just use? Is there even such a close-range attack spell within primary fire magic? Even as the teacher, Ranbu couldn't help but marvel in her heart at Kaede's high talent when she witnessed this scene. If she wasn't mistaken, the magic Kaede used from beginning to end was actually just one single spell. Primary rank fire magic, Flame Overlay. This was a defensive measure usually employed to deal with enemies who suddenly closed in from melee combat. It basically allowed flames to manifest on one's own body. However, the price for this was that it was incredibly easy to get burned by the fire. Yet Kaede was able to ensure he wasn't affected by burns at all, while executing so many high-difficulty movements. His physical strength was one factor, but the other factor was his absolute control over the flames. This level of control had probably already reached the intermediate rank standard. Thinking of this, Ranbu couldn't help but reveal a slight smile. As expected, this child Kaede truly possessed immense talent. As long as he worked a bit harder, he could easily crush many ordinary students. If he could keep exerting effort, his future would be completely limitless. Also, that Kanji wasn't bad either. This physical strength, he truly lived up to being a talent coming from that place. Ha ha ha! Ranbu was suddenly interrupted by a burst of laughter. Turning her head to look, she found Maru and Tenra counting money on the side while laughing out loud. Usually, the 4 of them stuck together like glue, completely inseparable. Since Kanji and Kaede performed so well, those 2 probably shouldn't be too far off either. Next match, Group 2 faces Group 11. Chapter 8, Blinding Your Eyes. Group 2 had already taken the stage. Among them, Kaede actually recognized the male student. It was his middle school classmate, Hiroshi. The female student was a quiet girl wearing glasses named Kiyomi. As Group 2 took the stage, Maru on the other side didn't step up to fight, but was instead shouting in the spectator stands, "Bets are open! Bets are open! Wager on whether the 2 of us can beat these 2 powerful classmates from Group 2. Bet on us winning, payout odds are 3x. Bet on us losing, payout odds are 1x. Maru actually dared to set their losing odds so low, so he must have zero confidence in himself. Except for the 2 who knew them well, everyone else held this exact thought. Those who had lost money in the previous round didn't hesitate for a single second this time and directly bet that Group 2 would win. As brothers, how could Kaede and Kanji not believe in their good bros? They directly bet on them to win. Looking at the 2 who were acting like complete clowns, Ranbu couldn't help but feel a bit helpless. Why did her class have to have these 4 eccentrics? "Hey, Maru, I'm betting 200 that we will win!" Hiroshi shouted loudly. Maru held out his hand to signal okay. After collecting the money, Maru and Tenra walked onto the battlefield at the same time. Hiroshi was an earth element mage, and Kiyomi was water element. Both of them belonged to types with relatively strong crowd control, and they were both at 5 stars. Maru and Tenra's strength wasn't deeply hidden like Kaede and Kanji's. They were only at primary rank 3 stars, which was a well-known fact to everyone in the class. After confirming that both sides were ready, Ranbu announced the start of the sparring match. "Tenra, you catch my drift?" "Got it. Tenra stomped one foot on the ground, and a summoning array materialized out of thin air right in front of him. "Quickly disrupt his summoning cast," Hiroshi ordered, preparing to use Earth Spike to stop Tenra's summoning. However, who could have anticipated that at this exact moment, "Watch me blind your eyes!" Myru transformed into a brilliant golden light, continuously darting back and forth across the stage. The blinding light forced Hiroshi and his partner to narrow their eyes, while Tenra calmly pulled out a pair of sunglasses from his pocket and put them on. "Too shameless!" The spectator stands erupted in collective outrage. This was the first time they had ever witnessed such an obnoxious and disgusting operation from a light element mage. Hee. Myru's lips curled upward, and then he threw a primary rank light spell, a flashbang, directly into the faces of the two. With another flash of piercing light, the two instantly lost their vision and could only continuously deploy spells intending to defend themselves. But who would have guessed that in the next instant, they felt as though their spells were blocked by something. When they finally regained their sight, what they saw was a massive 3-meter-tall skeleton looking down at them, while Tenra and Myru were sitting right on the skeleton's shoulders. "Undead summoning?" Ranbu cried out in shock. She truly hadn't expected that someone would actually awaken such an eccentric category within the summoning element. "You guys should just surrender. The skeleton giant is a top-tier undead creature within the primary rank. You can't beat it," Tenra said with a face full of smiles. But for some reason, the more cheerfully he grinned, the more it made people want to punch him. There was no need to detail the rest of the battle. The skeleton giant directly trampled them to secure the victory. Consequently, Tenra and Myru were dubbed the most shameless duo by their classmates. The first match featured violent mages, while the second match featured two shameless scoundrels. What kind of eccentrics are these? The midterm exam arrived exactly as scheduled. Looking at the 6-star badge lighting up on Kaide's chest, Ranbu couldn't hide her intense excitement. She had finally pulled this child back onto the right track. This was a glory belonging to her as a teacher. "The magic tool we agreed upon, can you give it to me now?" Kaide asked with a face full of anticipation. He had been waiting precisely for this moment. Hearing this, Ranbu did not hesitate and gave a cross necklace to Kaide. "This is a magic tool that can enhance the cultivation speed of human magical energy. You must work hard to become stronger, and don't let down the expectations your teacher has for you." Upon hearing this, a look of disdain irrepressibly surfaced on Kaide's face. Just this. Seeing Kaide's reaction, although Ranbu's expression didn't change and she maintained a smiling face, a wave of murderous intent began to emanate from her. Kaide's face instantly shifted, putting on a look as though he treasured it like a priceless jewel. Ranbu patted Kaede on the shoulder. "The final exam primarily revolves around practical duels to determine the quality ranking of the classes for this year group. Resources will be allocated based on this. It is split into 2 rounds in total. In the first round, the class will select the 3 strongest individuals to fight on behalf of the class. Only those whose strength has reached 6 stars are eligible to represent the class. The 6-star strength individuals in the class included Kaede, Kanji, Kyushu, Tsukinga, Myru, and Tenra. These last 2 sly foxes had been hiding their strength the entire time, specifically waiting for the right moment to catch people off guard. After drawing straws, it was Kaede versus Myru, Tenra versus Kanji, and Kyushu versus Sunua. "Teacher, I suspect you rigged this ranking on purpose." Myru expressed his dissatisfaction. Anyone with eyes could see that the teacher had intentionally orchestrated this. "Any objections?" Ranbui raised an eyebrow and shot a glance at Myru, instantly scaring him into silence. That's right, she did it on purpose. She simply wanted to see just how deep the water ran with these 4 guys. Ordinary opponents couldn't force out their full strength at all. Only by making them fight one another could she force out everything. However, she had no idea that very soon these 4 eccentrics would teach her young self a major lesson. Never underestimate the thought process of weirdos, because they weren't normal people at all. Myru gestured to call the other 3 to his side. After whispering together for a brief moment, the 4 of them simultaneously revealed a knowing smile. On the training ground, the first duel was without a doubt between the good brothers, Kaede and Myru. "Don't you dare go easy on me just because we're brothers. You better unleash your full strength and let everyone see how awesome you are." The 2 were fired up with passion, looking exactly like hot-blooded shonen youths. If it were normal people, this would be perfectly reasonable. But the problem was, were these 2 normal people? The countdown on the stopwatch began. Along with the ringing of the bell, the 2 instantly moved. The fiery red and golden figures closed in rapidly, as if a fierce clash was about to happen in a split second. Myru suddenly let out a miserable shriek. His golden light faltered for a moment, and then he violently flew backward. "Brother Kaede, your attack is too strong! I'm no match for you!" Myru shouted while flying backward through midair, looking exactly as if he had been defeated the very instant they clashed. Could this freaking acting be any faker? Myru thought that this reaction of his had safely secured his loss, and he even closed his eyes. What, midterm exam? He couldn't be bothered to vie for glory with those people. Just like Kaede said, isn't slacking off awesome? However, at this exact moment, an unexpected turn of events occurred. Crash! Kaede had somehow arrived right behind Myru, allowing Myru to slam heavily into his body, and then Kaede smoothly collapsed to the ground. Myru! I didn't expect you to actually predict my positioning. Chapter 9, Demon God Palace. Holy crap, you can even play it like that? Myru was completely dumbfounded. Just now, the four of them had discussed that they would each show off their own tricks in the duel, and whoever lost the fastest would be the winner. However, he never expected that while he thought he was already shameless enough by pretending to take a heavy hit and flying backward right before getting close to Kaede, this other guy was an even bigger heavyweight. Kaede directly ran over to his landing spot just to say, "I predicted his positioning. This is frickin' legendary!" The entire arena was dead silent. Kanji and Tenra were clutching their stomachs on the ground, practically splitting their sides from laughing. As expected of Kaede, ha 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 ha! It's gotta be Brother Kaede pulling off the stunts. Not far away, Ranbu's face turned completely green. After glaring at the two of them, she waved her hand and announced that Myru won this match. Kanji, Tenra, you two get up there. If you dare hold back again, don't blame me. Just count this match as my loss. My summoned beast has diarrhea lately and has no combat capability, Tenra blurted out an astounding statement. This excuse sounded reasonable at first. Listen. After all, summoning element mages rarely did random summonings. They usually summoned creatures they were familiar with and had summoned before. If those creatures had health issues and couldn't fight, it made sense. But the problem was, your summoned beast is an undead creature. How on earth does an undead creature get diarrhea? Ranbu was so angry she felt her head throbbing. In the end, the representative for the class was finalized as Kanji, Su-Nu. A 3-day holiday was granted for rest and reorganization, and the grade-wide class ranking battle would take place 3 days later. After school, the four of them decided to go out for a meal, with Myru picking up the tab. If someone offers to pay, you're a fool not to go. At the school entrance, watching the silhouettes of the four walking further and further away, Yuki revealed a relieved smile. This was wonderful. Her older brother no longer lacked friends like before, when he would watch anime all day and never step a single foot out of the house. Now, at the very least, he had friends, and their relationship seemed quite excellent. Looking at the mysterious expression on her best friend's face, Yumi was startled at first, and then she looked toward the four guys up ahead. She had seen these four before. Weren't they the ones Yuki used to secretly observe all the time on the sports field? Yumi carefully examined the facial features of the four. That fierce-looking one was definitely not the person Yuki liked. That guy who looked lazy and completely listless definitely wasn't either. Now there were only two left, one who looked honest and dependable, and one who looked bright and cheerful. The honest one was way too simple-minded, so he definitely wasn't Yuki's type. Therefore, it could be confirmed that it was that bright, handsome boy. Her best friend sure had sharp eyes. This boy was not only handsome, but also looked optimistic, open, and cheerful. She only dared to watch him from a distance, so it must be a secret crush. As her best friend, how could she not lend a helping hand? At this moment, Yuki had no idea that her behavior of watching over her older brother Kaede had already caused a complete misunderstanding with her close friend Yumi. The night in Pingcheng was slightly quiet. A black-robed figure walked down a dimly lit street, looking left and right as he walked, appearing highly cautious. Four heads suddenly poked out from a corner not too far behind him. It was precisely Kaede's group of four. Just now, after finishing their meal, they went to the internet cafe to have a good time. Upon stepping out to head home, they encountered a middle-aged man who looked no different from a normal person. Yet who would have guessed that Tenra would suddenly claim this person actually carried the scent of the undead? One must know that even for Tenra, who summoned the undead, his body didn't carry this kind of scent. Due to his unique nature, Tenra was exceptionally sensitive to this type of aura. And there was only one kind of person who could possess this aura: the cultists of the demon god palace. Cultists belonged to a single faction, the demon god palace. They worshipped the demon race and believed that only the demons could lead humanity to glory. To put it bluntly, they were the lackeys of the demon race. Kanji harbored a deep hatred for cultists. Upon hearing that this person carried the scent of the undead, he insisted on tailing him. Since their good bro was going to follow, could the three of them just sit by and do nothing? Thus, relying on a so-called stealth magic tool that Kaede pulled out, they followed the target all the way here. In reality, what Kaede had pulled out was a cultivation treasure, the Windwalking Pearl. It was one of the few cultivation treasures he had successfully crafted over the years. Seeing this person actually change into the representative black robe of the Demon God Palace, they became even more certain that this guy was indeed a cultist. Strange. Why would people from the Demon God Palace appear in Pengcheng? Myru scratched his head in confusion. Meanwhile, Kanji said with a grave tone, "Not long ago, a demon disturbance occurred outside Pengcheng, and someone suspected that people from the Demon God Palace were behind it. Now it seems it was true. So are we really going to keep following? With our strength, isn't it a bit too reckless to face such an organization?" Tenra started getting cold feet. Kanji reached out and smacked Tenra's head, saying, "Kaede's magic tool can completely mask our figures and auras. Relying on this thing, gathering information is an absolute certainty. As long as we find out the specific intelligence regarding why the Demon God Palace is in Pengcheng, the authorities will highly likely reward us with a magic tool." Kanji was right. Wealth is found within danger. After Myru finished speaking, he and Kanji took the lead to charge ahead. Kaede and Tenra looked at each other, shook their heads helplessly at the same time, and could only keep up. The four followed all the way to an alleyway. In this alley, there was a closed door. The man knocked on the door 3 times, and similarly, a black-robed person opened the door and brought him inside the house. "Follow them in!" Kanji took the lead and was about to rush forward when he was grabbed and pulled back by Kaede. "This is invisibility, not clipping through walls. Are they blind? Won't they see us opening the door?" Kaede was truly a bit exasperated by this guy's brain. His muscles were so overdeveloped that they took up the space for his brain. That makes sense. Then what should we do now? If you ask me, we should each go back to our own homes. I still want to go back and continue watching anime. Kaede's suggestion received Tenra's approval. Right at this moment, Myru, who hadn't spoken the entire time, suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He whispered to the three for a good while, and finally, everyone revealed an expression of sudden realization. As expected, when it comes to plotting schemes, Myru is the master. Inside the room, the expressions of the 3 black-robed men were highly solemn, and their eyes were filled with fear and helplessness. Right now, everyone in Pengcheng is looking for us from the Demon God Palace, and the 3 high-ranking officials in charge of this operation can no longer be contacted. The previous phases clearly went very well, so why did a problem arise at the final crucial siege phase? I don't know. However, there is one thing I can be certain of. If we want to escape with everyone now, we must employ that thing. Once these words were spoken, the other 2 fell into silence. If that thing was used, they would truly have absolutely no room left for turning back. Just as the 3 were filled with a mix of complex feelings, a hurried knocking suddenly echoed through the room. Chapter 10. Skipping class to do a mission. Upon hearing the knocking, the pupils of the 3 instantly contracted. Had they been discovered? They hurriedly entered a state of high alert, and everyone channeled their magical energy, prepared to unleash magic at any second. "Help! Help!" Terribly panicked screams echoed from outside the door. Upon hearing the sound, the 3 froze simultaneously. Before they could even react, the door was smashed open with a loud crash, and a youth was kicked straight into the room. "Run! Keep running! You dare poach my girl and cuckold me? Do you really think I'm someone you can mess with?" Kanji rushed into the room, directly hoisting up Tenra, who was putting on a look of extreme terror on the floor, his face completely filled with murderous intent. "Big brother, I was wrong! Big brother, I won't dare do it again! I truly didn't know she had a boyfriend." Tenra pleaded for Kanji to let him go. Meanwhile, Kanji said absolutely nothing, dragging Tenra out of the room while beating him up. Watching the 2 depart, the 3 from the Demon God Palace were utterly dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? One of the black-robed men closed the door and said very dismissively, Just two primary rank mages. Looking at their appearance, they should be high schoolers. They probably stumbled upon this place by sheer accident. Fights like this aren't exactly rare, but the two of them might have already seen our Demon God Palace attire. It's not suitable for us to act rashly right now. Otherwise, do you really think I would have let those two go? Besides, I already placed a curse on them. Within less than 3 minutes, they will die. The man revealed a cold smile. Taking advantage of the brief moment when the door opened earlier, Myru, who had sneaked inside the room while invisible, was startled upon hearing this. He turned his head to look at Kaede, only to see that Kaede didn't care at all. Witnessing Kaede's expression, Myru guessed that Kaede must have left some sort of safety measure, which was why he wasn't afraid of Tenra and Kanji being cursed. As expected of Brother Kaede, he thinks of everything thoroughly. However, the reality was that the exact moment the opponent unleashed the curse, Kaede had directly wiped it out. Thank goodness that among the 4 pieces of trash, a powerhouse like him was mixed in, otherwise they would have had to die at least twice today. Time is pressing now. If we don't use that thing to create chaos and escape from Pengcheng, I'm afraid our entire branch is doomed. The leading man's words had made things completely clear. They only had this one path left now. After the 3 finally agreed on a meeting location, they departed at the same time. After the 3 left, Myru turned off his recording pen. Upon finding the 2 outside, they reported this matter to the authorities. The subsequent events no longer had anything to do with them. The 3-day holiday was spent at home watching anime. Once the holiday ended, it was time for this term's class ranking battle. The training ground accommodated all the first-year high school students. Kaede and Tenra sat in the spectator stands, discussing what they should go out to eat for lunch. Class 4's Myru versus Class 2's Naruki. Myru walked up to the dueling platform and bowed slightly to the man in front of him, but his eyes kept glancing toward the spectator stands from time to time. Upon discovering that his secret crush, Yumi, was actually looking at him, his heart nearly leaped right out of his throat. Looking at Myru on the dueling platform, Yumi couldn't help but furrow her delicate brows. Is this the man Yuki set her eyes on? Could it be that, aside from being handsome, he is completely useless? Myru fought exceptionally hard in this battle. Relying on his powerful strength, he actually finished off his opponent within 10 rounds. As expected, is this the power of love? Myru thought to himself, while Yumi nodded slightly. Coming from a prestigious family herself, she could see that this Myru must have also been nurtured by a powerful family since childhood. Otherwise, he wouldn't possess such strength. This Myru's identity is definitely not simple. While Yumi was carefully observing Myru, Yuki was looking around for her older brother's figure. Strange, where is my brother? At this moment, Yuki could never have imagined that her older brother had already climbed over the school wall and run off, skipping class to complete a mission. While passing through an alley, Kaede changed his attire. Right now, his name wasn't Kaede. He went by Momiji. Momiji, you're finally here! Asuka hurriedly brought Kaede into the lounge. Only then did Kaede realize that the 10-member Aquila Demon Hunting Squad, which originally included himself, now only had 5 people left. Even the captain, Eisuke, who was usually always present, was absent. Where is Captain Eisuke? The captain took 3 teammates to another region to provide assistance. Right now, an emergency has occurred in Pengcheng, and all intermediate-ranked demon hunting squads must participate. Asuka pulled out a map of Pengcheng City, drew a specific area, and said, "The cultists of the Demon God Palace used a special potion in Pengcheng to release an odor that has attracted a massive number of insectoid demons. Right now, all the demon insects are gathering in these areas, and our mission is to clear the insect demons from this small zone. Because our numbers are small, the area we are responsible for is quite a bit smaller compared to other squads." Hearing this, Kaede nodded slightly. "There's no time to lose, let's head out immediately." After giving his word, Kaede followed Asuka out of the lounge. The Aquila Demon Hunting Squad was responsible for a section of an abandoned factory, where hundreds of demon ants had gathered at some unknown point. Fortunately, these demon ants didn't even count as low rank, making them very easy to kill. The flames in Kaede's hand roared past, instantly turning the swarm of ants in front of him into charcoal. "Our mission counts as completed like this, right?" Kaede clapped his hands, his tone exceedingly calm. Hearing this, Asuka smiled bitterly. A powerhouse like him was truly overqualified for their squad. Just as Kaede was planning to leave with the Aquila Demon Hunting Squad, he suddenly noticed something amiss. What on earth has been happening to Pengcheng recently? Why do things like this keep popping up? "Momiji, what's wrong? Is there something unusual?" Asuka stopped her footsteps to inquire. Kaede merely waved his hand to signal them to go ahead, and then he vanished from the spot. The remaining members of the Aquila demon hunting squad looked at each other, momentarily not knowing whether they should leave or stay. Deep underground, a crimson centipede a full dozen meters long was continuously digging a tunnel. The Blood Scourge Scorpion Ant King, a Tier 3 super rank entity. The demon race had always looked down on the Demon God Palace. For instance, this time, the Blood Scourge Scorpion Ant King was the hidden fallback they left behind. If the Demon God Palace's operation failed, the Blood Scourge Scorpion Ant King would move out to complete the mission that the Demon God Palace failed to achieve. A bunch of useless, incompetent fools. They couldn't even find a single ruin, and in the end, it requires me to step in, the Blood Scourge Centipede King continuously grumbled in its heart. It truly never expected that a majestic super rank existence like itself would end up doing such lowly work as digging dirt. What a huge centipede! Suddenly, a voice echoed behind it. Before it could even react, a powerful force instantly tore its body to shreds. A blank magic card flashed past, and Kayed revealed a smile. Is this the joy of card collectors gathering cards? Chapter 11, Year-End Practical Combat. The first super rank card. Looking at the magic card in his hand, Kayed could finally understand the joy of those card collectors now. This Blood Scourge Centipede King would never have guessed that it would end up dying in such a confused, muddled manner. Having lived for so many years and finally becoming a super rank with great difficulty, it was instant killed before it could even show off its might. Thinking carefully about it, isn't it actually a little pitiful? In the blink of an eye, the end of the term arrived. The final exam was different from the midterm exam. The midterm was an internal conflict, while the final exam was a practical combat mission. Each class would be led by a demon hunting squad to a nearby area with no high-ranked demons to conduct practical combat. After the combat concluded, the demon hunting squad would grade them. A demon hunting squad? Sitting in the back row, Kayed suddenly snapped out of his cultivation state upon hearing this news. Why did he suddenly have an ominous premonition? Students, let us welcome the Aquila Demon Hunting Squad to our class. Rambo took the lead in applauding. Since the homeroom teacher was clapping, could the students fail to join in? Amidst Kayed's somewhat stiff clapping, all 9 members of the Aquila Demon Hunting Squad entered the classroom. The Aquila squad's reputation in Pengcheng was by no means small. After all, Pengcheng had no high-rank squads, and the strongest intermediate-rank squad was undoubtedly the Aquila Demon Hunting Squad. Looking at these familiar faces one by one, Kayed felt his mind fracture on the spot. This was too freaking awkward. Fortunately, during the past 6 months, he had always worn a mask when participating in missions. Otherwise, he would be embarrassed enough to blast off into space right from the spot. Hello everyone, I am Isuke, the captain of the Aquila Demon Hunting Squad, and I will also be your chief instructor for the next 7 days. Isuke's voice resonated like a great bronze bell. Hearing this, everyone felt a surge of profound respect. Defending the nation is never a solo battle. Team coordination is the most important factor. Once you reach the Magic University, you will understand the importance of teammates. Now, return home immediately to pack your things. Tomorrow morning, bring your luggage for the next 7 days, and I will show you just how cruel a true battlefield can be. As Isuke's voice faded, not a single person dared to move. They didn't know whether they should leave or stay. However, very quickly, within barely 3 seconds, someone stood up, packed their backpack, and walked out. It was precisely Kanji. Since Kanji had left, how could the other 3 not follow? Not to mention that Kayed had long wanted to run away. Kayed, Myru, and Tenra grabbed their backpacks and dashed outside, without a single shred of hesitation. I knew it had to be these 4 eccentrics. Rambo held her forehead, feeling somewhat helpless. Right at this moment, Isuke suddenly spoke up again. Aside from the 4 of them, the impression points the rest of you have given me are extremely poor. Hesitating and wavering, what kind of behavior is that? Remember, on the battlefield, obeying orders is your instinct. Hearing this, the other students instantly understood, packed their things, and bolted. The classroom was empty of students in no time. After the students left, Asuka, who had looked dead serious just a moment ago, shifted her expression and said to Ranbue with a laugh, "Yuki, why the long face? I think the students in your class are quite good. They aren't as problematic as the rumors say, especially those 4 just now. Their decisiveness actually surprised me a bit. Not bad. I also feel those 4 kids just now are quite excellent. Isuke nodded in agreement with Asuka's view. The main reason their Aquila demon hunting squad came over to serve as instructors this time was because of Ranbu. Every single one of them in the Aquila squad owed a debt to Ranbu because her older brother used to be their teammate, but he was ambushed by a demon creature during a mission and sacrificed his life. In reality, except for those 4 just now, no one else in our class is a problem. Those 4 are the biggest problems. Ranbu's words naturally piqued everyone's curiosity, causing them to lean in and listen closely. Among the 4, the fierce-looking one is named Kanji, a child raised on the battlefield. He used to be in a military district school. His style of doing things is that if it can be resolved with violence, he will absolutely never use words. A metal element mage. The one who looks bright and sunny is named Myru. He has a strong mind, great courage, and loves to stir things up. The honest-looking one is named Tenra. He looks like a very honest child, but he belongs to the type that adopts the traits of those he is around. When he is with Myru, it's like a bizarre chemical reaction occurs, and he can even reap benefits from it. Furthermore, he is an extremely rare summoning element undead type. And then there is that student who looks completely lazy, as if he can't muster interest in anything. His name is Kaede, and he is also the student who infuriates me the most. A fire element mage, he skyrocketed from 1 star to 6 stars in just 2 months. His fire control capability reached the intermediate rank standard, while still at the primary rank. His talent is heaven-defying, yet he has no ambition, doesn't fight for anything, and possesses a completely slacking mindset. These 4 students also hang around together every day like biological brothers. It's a headache, Ranbu spoke with growing helplessness. Hearing this, the members of the Aquila squad involuntarily ignored the other 3 and focused their attention primarily on this Kaede. Possessing such talent, yet not thinking about serving the country, defending the homeland, or slaying demons, but only wishing to coast through life and wait for death. A fellow like this must be disciplined and have his mindset corrected. The 9 members of the Aquila squad made up their minds. Right at this moment, Ranbu noticed a very serious issue. Wait, why are there only 9 of you? Didn't someone join 6 months ago to fill the 10-member squad? Ranbu was somewhat puzzled. She originally wanted to see what the new teammate looked like. Are you talking about Momiji? Asuka let out a sigh and then continued. Momiji is a very strange person. He always wears a mask when performing missions with us. According to him, it's because his face was disfigured and it's too frightening. He never actively seeks us out normally. Furthermore, his strength is immense, a bona fide high-rank mage. Just from what I know, his 2 attributes are lightning and fire, a top-tier offensive mage. The more Asuka spoke like this, the more Ranbu grew curious about this person named Momiji. How have I never heard of this high-rank mage? For a high-rank mage to have 0 fame in a small place like Pengcheng, that should be impossible, right? In reality, it's not hard to understand. Momiji probably wasn't originally from Pengcheng. He likely moved to another city to live after being disfigured, and became a hunter out of necessity to make a living. I suspect even this name of his is fake. This explanation from Asuka was also the current consensus regarding Kaede within the Aquila demon hunting squad. Ranbu nodded understandingly. That is indeed perfectly logical. Looking at the Magic Card album, which was mostly empty slots, Kaede felt a bit dejected. When would he be able to put together a full album of Magic Cards? Suddenly, a thought crossed his mind. Seeing that winter break was right around the corner, he could go out and roam. In all the years he had been on Planet Blue, he hadn't gone out to take a good look around. He heard that large cities had many figurine shops and anime holy lands. Going out to see them and broaden his horizons wasn't a bad idea either. Chapter 12. The Quartet Given Special Attention. Kaede leaned against his chair, looking up at the sky outside the window. Without realizing it, he had already integrated into this world. This world, after all, was merely a mortal realm, a mortal world lacking a cultivation system. The lack of a cultivation system meant that no one here could break through the limitations of lifespan. He was currently at the golden core stage of cultivation, with a lifespan spanning thousands of years. As time flowed onward, his friends and relatives would slowly depart from his side. The people of this world possessed no spiritual roots. The reason he could cultivate was because a portion of his divine soul's power from his previous life had been preserved. It could be said that his physical body was born precisely because of his divine soul. His physical body was born because of his divine soul, so he was the only person in this world who could cultivate. Look at this build of mine, it's truly fantastic! He didn't know what his current level truly amounted to. Kaede formed a bold idea. Since he could not change this world, he would change the people around him. Through medicinal pills, he could definitely cause his friends and relatives around him to shed their mortal frames and exchange their bones. It was just that this path was very long, and he could only grope his way forward slowly. "Brother, time to eat!" Hearing the voice called out by Yuki, Kaede smiled slightly. This kind of life was truly wonderful. Kaede stood up, left his bedroom, and walked toward the dining table in the living room. Kaede arrived at the classroom carrying only a single backpack. Unsurprisingly, the other three were exactly like him, keeping things as simple as possible, bringing a remarkably small amount of items. Compared to the large and small bags of others, they stood out prominently. Eisuke looked at the four of them with great satisfaction, and then glared furiously at the students carrying large and small bags, his tone exceedingly fierce and unforgiving, especially targeting one girl. Good grief, a suitcase plus a duffel bag. Anyone who didn't know better would think she was moving house. Kaede, Mairu, Tenra, Kanji, the four of you performed most exceptionally, so I will lead the four of you separately. The moment Eisuke said this, the other students instantly revealed expressions as if they had finally been liberated. In the end, the grouping was finalized. Unsurprisingly, the four received special attention and were led by Eisuke. The members of Group 1, Kanji, Tenra, Mairu, and Kaede, were led by Eisuke away from the main group. Dusk. Deep inside a forest outside Pengcheng, the Hexi district. It was originally a suburban district on the outermost edge of Pengcheng, but was later abandoned due to the battles from the demon race's invasion. Even now, demons still frequented the area, though most were ordinary or primary rank demon beasts. There were still a few intermediate rank demons deep within Hexi district, but they weren't numerous. "Having walked for so long, you four must be tired too. Sit down and rest for a while," Eisuke said to the four after confirming the surroundings were safe. However, the moment he turned his head, he realized that at some unknown point, these four had already sat down on the open ground by the riverbank to rest. "Who told you to rest without my orders?" Kanji looked at Eisuke with a look that said, "I am not stupid," and said, "Just now, after you stopped, you looked around to observe the surroundings for a long time. There are no traces of demons here, and plus, after walking for so long, this place is suitable for setting up camp. Doesn't that mean you intended to rest and reorganize here?" These words left Eisuke momentarily unable to find a single flaw. As expected of someone from the military district, despite his young age, he truly knew quite a bit about military operations. "Brother Kaede, fire it up a bit." Mairu pulled out a piece of vacuum-sealed raw meat. Hearing this, Kaede directly took it and opened it. Whoosh! Flames surged up. In just a short moment, the high temperature roasted the steak to perfection, and then Kaede took another piece. Looking at the sizzling, oil-dripping roasted meat in the hands of the four, Eisuke was incredibly shocked deep down. He conducted wilderness operations all year round, and knew all too well how difficult it was to control the heat for something like roasted meat. This Kaede could not only roast the meat to perfection in moments, but could also control the roasting heat to absolute perfection. This fire control capability was a few notches more brilliant than his own, but very quickly he remembered what Rambo had said, and rage irrepressibly welled up from his heart. Why would such talent reside within such an unlearned, useless slacker who only wanted to coast through life and wait for death? If he himself possessed this talent, let alone high rank, becoming a super rank existence wouldn't be impossible. The more he thought, the angrier he got, and the gaze he directed toward Kaede increasingly carried a hint of murderous intent. Kaede felt Eisuke's murderous intent, and, for some reason, actually felt a bit guilty. Could he have discovered my identity? But very quickly, Kaede dismissed this notion, because he had already realized that the reason Eisuke was so angry was upon seeing his talent. He was all too familiar with this kind of look of frustration over someone failing to live up to potential. Eisuke sat beside the campfire without speaking, took a piece of roasted meat, and took a fierce bite. The flavor was indeed excellent. The four of you set up a schedule and take turns keeping night watch. After Eisuke finished speaking, he simply found a comfortable spot, lay down, and went to sleep. Eisuke appeared to be sleeping, but in reality, he was squinting his eyes to secretly observe the performance of the four. And then he was dumbfounded. He saw three of them simultaneously turn their gazes toward Tenra, who was currently munching on roasted meat. Tenra also instantly understood what they meant. A summoning array manifested immediately, several skeletons appeared, and then they were stationed by Tenra at several nearby spots to look out. How did I forget the fact that there's a summoner among them? Aisuke felt helpless, but at the same time somewhat relieved. Revealing a slight smile, he no longer paid any mind to the four. The starry sky was brilliant. Kaede lay on the grass, looking at the sky, having no intention of sleeping. "Brother Kaede, you look like you have something on your mind, and I feel this forlorn expression of yours is very similar to the expression I see on the faces of the deceased families when I help them bury the bodies. Are you remembering an old friend from the past?" Tenra approached Kaede's side and asked with some confusion. Hearing this, Kaede smiled faintly and said, "You could say that. But overall, it's more like a form of regret." Tenra looked at Kaede. This was the first time he had ever seen Kaede reveal such an expression. For some reason, he always felt that the current Kaede looked very similar to his own grandfather when he reminisced about bygone years. Kaede looked at the starry sky, a graceful silhouette flashing through his mind. "I have already accompanied you through your entire life, so it counts as having no regrets." Kaede closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. But at a moment, unnoticed by anyone, a single tear quietly slid down. As expected, I still can't forget her. The next morning, under Aisuke's lead, the four continued their advance. Piercing through the forest, an abandoned pasture appeared before their eyes. And in the center of the pasture, a demon horse was currently crouching, its entire body pitch black and its eyes blood red. An intermediate rank, Tier 1 demon horse. Do the four of you have the confidence to slay it? Aisuke turned his head to look at the four, but the four shook their heads simultaneously. "Don't think I don't know your little schemes. It's nothing more than wanting to act cowardly, so that I will pull out rewards to motivate you. As long as you can kill this demon horse, the four of you will receive one low-rank magic tool each." Chapter 13. The Operations of the Four. Only with rewards is their motivation. The four smiled knowingly. The first to act was Myru. A brilliant golden light appeared, and Myru instantly arrived right in front of this demon horse. Before the demon horse could react, his hands radiated blinding golden light, causing the demon horse, which was already sensitive to light, to temporarily lose its vision. The demon horse let out a neigh, its piercing sound making Myru feel a bit dizzy. The horse's hooves had already reached front of him. Right at this moment, a metal shield appeared in front of Myru. Seeing this situation, Aisuke couldn't help but be astonished. Even he hadn't noticed it. At some unknown point, Kanji had already placed metal he could manipulate onto Myru's body, transforming it into a shield to protect his teammate the split second a crisis arose. The moment the demon horse launched its attack, Kanji had also arrived at the side of the demon horse. The metal condensed into 3 sharp blades that struck the demon horse's flank, bringing forth a splash of blood. Metal element mages could dissolve metal into the magical energy within their bodies, and then recondense it when needed. The higher the rank, the more metal they could store and control. A stream of fire descended from the sky, burning fiercely upon the demon horse. Primary rank fire magic, burning. Not only that, a fire line also struck the demon horse at the same time. Normally speaking, it was impossible for a primary rank mage to simultaneously use 2 spells, especially a fundamentally explosive magic like the fire element. But this guy, the demon horse, was an intermediate rank demon beast after all. Wanting to defeat it so easily was obviously impossible. The demon horse let out a neigh. The flames on its body dissipated, and Kaede's fire line collapsed along with it. Retreating a few steps, Kaede glanced at Aisuke, who was observing them from a short distance away. If this were ordinary times, he would have destroyed this trash long ago, but right now there was an outsider, so he couldn't expose his true strength. His surface strength also needed to find a way to be raised. By now, the demon horse had recovered its vision. After the weapons Kanji controlled were knocked away, he intended to continue his attack, but who would have thought the demon horse would flash like a dark shadow and arrive behind him? What rapid speed! Kanji hurriedly transformed his remaining metal into a shield, yet even so, a collision from the demon horse still knocked him flying several meters. Before he could even stand firm, the demon horse came attacking again. A golden light shone brightly. Just as the demon horse was about to crash into Kanji, Myru appeared and rescued him. Whoosh, whoosh! 3 wind blades came whistling over. How did they forget? As an intermediate rank demon creature, the demon horse could use magic. Fortunately, 3 fireballs collided with the wind blades and exploded. Kaede acted in time to resolve this crisis. "Tenra, are you ready yet?" Myru shouted loudly, and right at this moment, they heard Tenra give a loud cry, "Ready!" Instantly, several earth spikes appeared all around the demon horse's body, enclosing it in the center. Seizing the perfect timing, Kaede unleashed various flame attacks one after another. Witnessing this anomaly, Eisuke hurriedly looked toward Tenra's direction. At some unknown point, two skeletons dressed as mages were actually standing beside him. One of the skeleton mages was precisely the one who used the primary rank Earth Spike magic. Rumble! A bolt of lightning traveled along the ground, striking the trapped demon horse. Primary rank lightning magic, Lightning Strike. Undead-type summons had always been a blank slate within Huaxia's summoning field. Regarding undead summons, it seemed there were only brief records abroad. He truly never expected that within undead summons, there would actually be humanoid summons capable of utilizing magic. Eisuke was shocked deep down. This Tenra's future development was completely immeasurable. However, looking at Tenra's obviously depleted magical energy, Eisuke shook his head. They were indeed very strong, absolute geniuses among those of the same rank. Unfortunately, this was an intermediate rank demon beast after all. It was simply impossible for them to win. This gap was an absolute chasm. The intermediate rank demon horse's innate demon spell, Berserk, could instantly elevate its physical body by a notch when that time came, let alone killing it. If they took even a single hit from the opponent, they would end up dead or severely crippled. Sensing the shift in the aura on the demon horse's body, just as Eisuke was preparing to step in, another mutation occurred. Boom! A massive explosion suddenly erupted in the center of the battlefield. Eisuke was all too familiar with this sensation. An intermediate rank single-use magic tool, the sky-shattering thunder. Ah ha ha ha, brothers, thank me! Myru stood with hands on his hips, looking immensely proud, while Eisuke's face turned completely green. The sky-shattering thunder. Its explosive power could instantly instant-kill an intermediate rank demon beast. And now this student had pulled it out just like that, purely for the sake of obtaining 4 primary rank magic tools from him. Isn't this just bullying? As expected of you, absolutely devoid of humanity. The three simultaneously gave a thumbs up to Myru. They had long known this kid Myru was rich, a bona fide young master. They weren't surprised by this operation of his. They didn't feel much of anything, but Eisuke's mindset completely collapsed. He understood clearly now. These 4 kids were explicitly plotting against him. Especially that Myru, even if the income and expenditure were disproportionate, he still insisted on disgusting him. Renbu was right. These 4 were a bunch of eccentrics. Singling them out was fine, but once they gathered together, some bizarre chemical reaction was bound to occur. He hoped nothing else would happen later to leave him speechless. Kaede pulled out a blank magic card. His collection cards had gained another entry. Over the next few days, Eisuke's mindset collapsed entirely. For some unknown reason, these 4 would provoke intermediate rank demon beasts every single day, and then put on an act of, "We can't do it, instructor, it all depends on you." If you called them strong, they still acted terrified upon seeing intermediate rank demon beasts. If you called them weak, they could still play intermediate rank demon beasts like a fiddle and lead them right to him. As the 7 days came to an end, Eisuke felt he had finally escaped from a sea of misery. Looking at the magic cards collected recently, Kaide's smile was practically split to his ears. Looking at the low-rank magic tools in his hand that Kaede and the other 2 didn't want and gave to him, Tenra danced around with excitement. Kanji reminisced about the hearty battles of the past 2 days, feeling highly satisfied. Myru felt a deep internal satisfaction watching the instructor whose mindset had been blasted by his strategies. It was a world where only Eisuke ended up hurt. During the review back in class, the 4 received Eisuke's recognition. Although these 4 little fellows had plotted against him a few times, he had to admit that these 4 were indeed highly exceptional. Even on a battlefield, they would absolutely be excellent assets. Especially their mutual trust and coordination made even him involuntarily envious. Looking at their perfect scores for the year-end practical combat, the 4 simultaneously revealed smiles. School ended. Stepping out of the school grounds, Kaede had just bid farewell to the 3 who left in a hurry due to urgent matters when he spotted Yuki jogging all the way over toward him. Perhaps because she was overly excited, Yuki actually threw herself straight into Kaede's embrace, saying excitedly, "You finally have some ambition. This is truly wonderful." Highly obviously, Yuki already knew the matter of her older brother obtaining a perfect score in the practical combat. Walking out of the school grounds together with Yuki, Yumi was completely dumbfounded upon witnessing this scene. When did her best friend transfer her affections to someone else? Chapter 14, The Crouching Dragon and Fledgling Phoenix. Not far away, another classmate named Oceanus, who had always liked Yuki, was completely stupefied. The flowers prepared in his hand fell to the ground. He had originally intended to confess his feelings today, but confess your grandfather. If there's anything, wait until I get back to talk about it. Right now, I'm going to the internet cafe to play on the computer. Kaede pushed Yuki away with a slight hint of disdain. Today, Yuki didn't oppose his going to the internet cafe. On the contrary, she even pulled out money and gave it to Kaede, saying it was for the internet fees. I only have 50 left on me, spend it wisely. Kaede took the money and nodded to indicate, no problem. This caused Yumi to look on completely dazed. What's the situation? What on earth is this situation? This fellow is dating Yuki, yet he actually lets the female party spend money? What kind of low-tier man is this? Oceanus thought exactly the same thing. Thus, after Kaede and Yuki separated, he secretly followed behind, intending to have a thorough discussion about life in a moment with this guy who didn't cherish the opportunity with the goddess. Yumi noticed Oceanus following Kaede and did not stop him. Instead, she hoped the other party could help prevent this foul breath as well. That's right, she knew Yuki had walked back. Yumi believed that as her best friend, she had to wake Yuki up and let her see this disgusting, low-tier man clearly. Yuki, what do you think of that man? Yumi pointed at Kaede's receding figure and asked. Him? Completely unlearned and useless day in and day out an otaku. Aside from liking anime, it's playing games. The internet cafe is practically his home. However, I heard he got a perfect score in the year-end practical combat, which shows that under my unremitting efforts, he is gradually changing. When saying these words, Yuki was quite proud. Hearing this, Yumi's face was covered in black lines. When did her best friend become so deeply infatuated? Yuki, I feel this man is highly unreliable. You mustn't be deceived by him. After all, a person's heart is separated by their skin. You give your true heart to him, but he might just be treating you as an ATM. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Yuki suddenly realized that something seemed slightly amiss. Yumi organized her phrasing and said decisively, "This guy is purely a scumbag. You absolutely cannot be deluded by his sweet words. Break up with him." Break up from what? He isn't my boyfriend, he is my older cousin, my uncle's son. He and I have grown up together in the same household. After my uncle and aunt went out to work, the two of us have always lived together. Because he is usually unlearned and always slacking off, my aunt asked me to keep him in check. Today, I heard he finally shows signs of improving, which is why I was so excited. Yuki was somewhat caught between laughter and tears. She finally understood now that it turned as a complete misunderstanding on Yumi's part. Hearing this, Yumi froze instantly. He's truly your brother. After being dazed for a second, Yumi instantly reacted that if she were any later, Yuki's older brother would probably be beaten up by Oceanus. Pulling Yuki along, Yumi ran rapidly toward the direction where the two had departed just now. Looking at the youth who had brought him into the alleyway with a face full of fury, Kaede was somewhat bewildered. Do you have some business with me? Yes, and it's big business. Oceanus suddenly grabbed his collar and said through gritted teeth, If you know what's good for you, stay far away from Yuki. A good girl like that isn't someone you can lay your hands on. Hearing this, Kaede understood in an instant that he had been misunderstood. So, you like Yuki? That's right. Even I consider myself potentially unworthy of her, so how does a scumbag like you deserve her? It was obvious that Kazuki's previous nonchalant attitude and his demand for money had provoked Ocean. Now, Ocean was convinced that Kazuki was nothing but scum who played with women's feelings. Does that have anything to do with me beating you up? Yes, it has a lot to do with it. So what? What is my last name anyway? You aren't trying to stall for time, are you? Let me tell you, no matter who you call over today, I am going to beat you until you learn your lesson. From now on, you are not allowed to harass Miyuki ever again. My last name is Toba. Miyuki also has the last name Toba. In other words, is it possible? Ocean? And right at that moment, Ocean, what are you doing to my brother? Out of sheer anger, frost began to condense all over Miyuki's body. Upon hearing those words, Ocean froze first, and then his face went completely pale. As soon as he let go, Kazuki stood firmly on the ground. Young man, next time make sure you gather proper intel before blocking someone in an alley. Kazuki took a breath, patted the shoulder of this poor kid, Ocean, and walked toward the street outside the alleyway. Big brother! Brother-in-law! I was wrong! This is all a misunderstanding. Ocean quickly ran after him to explain, but he was pinned in place by Miyuki's freezing glare. "Who is your brother-in-law?" "You bastard, not only did you want to hurt my brother—" "Miyuki, leave the beating to me." Yui called out to stop her, looking at Ocean with eyes full of sympathy. Ocean fell directly into utter despair. His love life was completely ruined. Miyuki, on the other hand, felt a bit helpless. Ocean and Yui were truly a pair of absolute idiots. The winter break had already begun. Kazuki looked at his phone, wondering how he should spend the holidays. He asked in the F4 group chat if anyone was free during the winter break. In the end, only Ren indicated he had time. "I'm going to travel out of town for over a month. Interested in wilding out with me?" Ren, "No money." "Kazuki, I'll cover everything for you." Ren, "Godfather, please accept my deepest bow." An hour later, there was a knock on the door. Kazuki went over to open it, and sure enough, it was Ren. "Sister, I'm going traveling. I'll definitely be back before the new year." Regarding Kazuki going on a trip, Miyuki was actually more than happy about it. After all, being able to go traveling meant that Kazuki was finally starting to step out of his shut-in lifestyle. At the train station, Kazuki and Ren were discussing where they should go to have fun. "Are you brave?" Kazuki asked, looking uncharacteristically solemn. "Brother Kazuki, I work in the funeral service industry. Do you think I lack courage?" "That's true. Since that's the case, let's go to this place." Kazuki pointed at a mountain range on the map, the Gogyo Mountain Range. The Gogyo Mountain Range was located between the eastern and northern regions. Since they were in the eastern domain, they were naturally in the eastern part. Currently, more than half of the Gogyo Mountain Range belonged to the beast race, with only a few human cities remaining. The current situation was that the beast race would not mass migrate out of the mountains. Humans would not go inside to exterminate the beast race either, which maintained a very balanced state. The two of them wasted no time and headed directly to Gogyo City, the representative city of the Gogyo Mountain Range. After riding the train for a whole day, they finally arrived at their destination at around 5 in the evening the next day. It was currently winter, and Gogyo City was already covered in white snow, so it was naturally not as bustling as it would be in the summer. Chapter 15. The Blacksmith. Kazuki booked a hotel for the night. After checking in, Ren looked around like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. As for Kazuki, he pulled out a seemingly ordinary piece of iron from his storage ring. His primary reason for coming to the Gogyo Mountain Range this time was that Gogyo City was the largest trading hub for medicinal herbs in the eastern domain. Similarly, due to its rich mineral resources, rare ore trading could be seen everywhere. He planned to use Ren as his first test subject to see if he could find a way to make his body undergo a transformation through alchemy pills. This would certainly require a massive amount of money to purchase the herbs, so he planned to craft and sell some highly unique metals to exchange for funds. "Ren, go out and buy me some snacks and drinks. I've already sent you the money." Ren happily ran off, and the moment he left, flames flared up in Kazuki's hands. With his late core formation cultivation stage, refining an ordinary piece of iron to its absolute limit to become refined iron was incredibly effortless. The impurities in the iron block were completely purged. The originally dull block of iron now shone brilliantly. Looking at the refined iron in his hand, which weighed a full 3 pounds, Kazuki couldn't help but smile. By the time Ren returned, Kazuki had already gone out. However, since he had sent a message in advance, Ren didn't find it strange. Magical artifact blacksmith shops could be seen everywhere in Gogyo City. Kazuki put on his familiar mask. Because it was winter, there were no customers in the blacksmith shop. When Kazuki walked inside, the woman sitting at the counter looked at him and asked, "What does this guest need to buy? The items in our shop are not cheap." She was a woman in her 30s wearing light makeup, radiating femininity, with a pair of flawless legs and black stockings and a slightly nonchalant expression on her face. It was very obvious that she didn't take a customer like Kazuki seriously. "Do you accept metal materials here?" "Of course we do, but they must be high-quality materials for us to accept them. If they are just ordinary materials, turn left outside and go down Blacksmith Street. They take them there." The woman felt a bit speechless inside. She had opened her shop in such a remote location, so why were clueless customers still wandering in? "I think you will want to accept this piece of iron." With a flip of Kazuki's hand, the refined iron appeared. When the woman saw it, she couldn't help but freeze. Where did this guy pull that out from? However, she was quickly drawn to the refined iron, hurriedly standing up to take it and inspect it closely. Then, with a face full of shock and disbelief, she asked, This is refined iron and its purity has reached over 70%. Where did you get this? Is that something you should be asking? Although Kazuki's tone was very flat, the woman could hear a trace of displeasure in it and quickly apologized. I apologize, sir. I was rude just now. My name is Haruka. I am a high-tier blacksmith. I am called Momiji. It looks like you intend to accept this refined iron, so please name your price. Kazuki's tone was as calm as water, making it impossible for Haruka, a woman with years of business experience, to read his emotions. Haruka hesitated for a moment and then said, Senior Momiji, this refined iron is far too valuable, and I cannot judge it accurately. I hope you can come to the private room and wait for a moment. I will call my master over right away. Kazuki nodded slightly and followed Haruka into the private room on the second floor. Haruka took out her phone to call her master, and not long after, a woman in her 50s wearing a down jacket walked into the private room. The woman wore glasses, and her hair was already graying. Although she was older, her eyesight for materials was exceptionally sharp. And precisely because her judgment was so sharp, a look of complete disbelief quickly surfaced on her face. How is this possible? Master, what's wrong? Is there an issue with this refined iron? Haruka asked hurriedly. She had followed her master for so many years, but had never seen her make such an expression. There is no issue with the refined iron itself, but the problem is, why are there absolutely zero impurities? The woman's eyes were filled with confusion and bewilderment. She was the only female ultra-tier blacksmith in the country, which showed just how high her crafting skills truly were. Yet, even a blacksmith of her caliber utilizing mechanical instruments and various methods could only remove up to 80% of the impurities in iron. Iron with more than 50% of its impurities removed was considered refined iron, but with the piece in front of her, she literally could not find a single trace of impurity. My friend, may I use an instrument to test this refined iron? I will definitely give you a proper price to purchase it afterward. The woman pleaded slightly. It was clear she desperately wanted to know exactly what purity this refined iron possessed. Kazuki waved his hand to indicate he didn't mind. Upon hearing this, the woman clutched the refined iron and hurriedly ran upstairs. The third floor was their forging workshop. Through Haruka's explanation, Kazuki learned that the woman just now was named Rin, a nationally renowned ultra-tier blacksmith, and the only female one at that. Kazuki didn't really care. As long as they paid, anything was fine. Not long after, Rin returned, though the expression on her face was completely blank and full of disbelief. Master, what is the purity of this refined iron? Haruka asked impatiently. After all, the highest known refined iron purity in the country was currently 85%. Who would have thought that Rin would completely ignore her disciple, sitting straight across from Kazuki instead, her eyes filled with pleading? I do not know if you can tell me, sir, exactly which senior blacksmith forged this piece of 100% pure refined iron. How could that be possible? Haruka's pupils contracted in disbelief. Iron ore is mixed with many elements. With current human technology, it can only be refined up to 90% because the remaining 10% of impurities and iron elements are practically fused as one, making them impossible to separate. Realistically, how could anyone forge a piece of refined iron with 100% purity? Hearing this, Kazuki merely smiled faintly and said, This refined iron was forged by me. Just tell me how much it is. I still need to take the money and go eat. As soon as these words came out, the master and disciple looked at each other. Rin, being older and more experienced, looked at Kazuki and asked, If you can tell me how to extract this refined iron to achieve 100% purity, I am willing to pay 50 million. Hearing this, Kazuki couldn't help but gasp in his mind. As expected of a renowned blacksmith, she was truly loaded. Kazuki didn't waste time. With a flip of his hand, another 3-pound block of iron appeared in his palm. Whoosh! A blazing fire erupted in an instant. Both women were startled, and then the master and disciple simultaneously utilized investigation magic, only to discover that they couldn't detect a single shred of magical energy from this fire. No magical energy fluctuations? How is this possible? Haruka gasped in surprise. This matter had completely exceeded her understanding of reality. Who ruled that among millions of worlds, magic is the only way to break the shackles of the mundane world through cultivation? Chapter 16. The Might of Cultivation. The flames in Kazuki's hand suddenly surged into the iron block. In a mere instant, all the flames were completely absorbed by the iron, and fiery red patterns began to manifest across its surface. Rin took the refined iron and inspected it carefully. She herself was a fire affinity mage. She quickly discovered that this was not just a piece of 100% pure refined iron, but it also contained a massive amount of fire elements. Not only could it enhance the power of fire magic, but its fire resistance was also exceptionally strong, and it could even assist fire affinity mages in cultivating fire energy. This kind of forging technique was completely unprecedented and unheard of. The shock was immense, but Rin and Haruka quickly realized something. Based on what this man said, he was not a mage, yet he possessed power comparable to one. Does this world have other supreme cultivation systems besides cultivating magic? Haruka was the first who couldn't contain herself and asked. Hearing this, Kazuki didn't hold back. He had to maintain a profound and unfathomable image right now to make these two admire or even fear him, because only in this way would future cooperation be much more convenient. The cultivation systems across thousands of planes are countless. The magic you speak of is nothing but an unorthodox path in my eyes, incapable of even breaking the chains of natural law. Rin, being someone who had lived for over half a century, instantly caught the crucial point within his words and asked with excitement, "Could it be that you are not a person from our planet Blue?" "That's right. I come from another plane, just like the beast race. They originally came from another plane as well." What Kazuki said was actually the truth. He could conclude that the beast race on planet Blue was merely a branch of the true beast race, and compared to the authentic one, they were still quite inferior. This was just like the difference between cultivators like him and the mages here. Both were human races, but the quality was worlds apart. After confirming this matter, the way the two looked at Kazuki completely changed. After all, the last creature from another world that arrived on their planet, the beast race, had triggered a war that lasted for hundreds of years. Seeing the terror in their eyes, Kazuki waved his hand and said, "Rest assured, we are all humans, and from my side, I am the only one who came to this plane. I am truly curious. Since you say you are human, where exactly does the gap between us lie? How much does your cultivation system differ from ours? Is it all about defying heaven's will?" Rin was now curious to an absolute peak about the things of Kazuki's world. Not only her, but even Haruka's eyes were filled with a yearning for the unknown. The gap is massive. Let's put it this way. You cultivate magic, but at the end of the day, you cannot escape the power limitations of this world. Calling it defying heaven's will is a joke. If you cannot even cause a world-destroying level of destruction, how can you call it defying heaven? Whereas when we cultivate to the absolute peak, we can hold the sun and moon in our hands, and even the heavenly laws tremble before us. That is what true defiance of heaven means. After speaking, Kazuki suddenly stomped one foot onto the ground, unleashing the full force of his core formation cultivation. Activating heavenly thunder in a mortal realm was all too easy for a core formation cultivator, let alone someone who was the reincarnation of a divine emperor. Although less than 1% of his divine soul remained, communicating with the laws of heaven and earth was still no problem. Instantly, the cloudless weather outside the window suddenly changed drastically. Kazuki suddenly grabbed Rin and Haruka, teleporting them onto the empty, deserted street outside the shop. It was currently night, already past 8 o'clock. This area was already quite remote, and right now, there wasn't a single soul around. Watch closely. This is what cultivation is, and this is what it means to truly defy heaven. Kazuki took up the iron block once more, then exerted force with both feet, soaring instantly into the high sky. Right now, Rin and Haruka could only see a tiny black dot standing in the upper atmosphere. Heavenly thunder, descend! Boom! Over a dozen lightning bolts suddenly struck down. However, these lightning bolts did not strike the ground. Instead, they abruptly pivoted mid-air and slammed directly into Kazuki's body. Because Kazuki had used spiritual energy to alter the women's vision, only they could witness his silhouette. The refined iron in his hand instantaneously absorbed the power of the heavenly thunder. The refined iron in his hand instantaneously absorbed the power of the heavenly thunder. The dark clouds in the sky suddenly dispersed as quickly as they had gathered. Kazuki drifted down slowly from the sky like an immortal. Witnessing this scene, the master and disciple were completely speechless. Is this something a human can achieve? Is this something a human can achieve? Do you think I am very strong right now? Having returned to the room, Kazuki looked at the two of them with a slightly playful expression. Abnormally strong. Compared to yours, our cultivation system is simply... Haruka's eyes gradually became dazed. The magic they had worked so hard to cultivate felt like absolute garbage in front of this man. Rin composed herself quickly, staring at Kazuki while waiting for his next words. Let me tell you something quite hilarious. Actually, my current level is only the 3rd stage in the cultivation system I follow, and the entire system has a total of 15 stages. How is that possible? This time, even Rin could no longer remain calm, suddenly standing up. I am not lying to you, I am telling the absolute truth. To use the words of your world, the cultivation system we walk is meant for becoming a god. However, you don't need to worry either. Your plane is just a mortal realm. Anyone exceeding the 4th stage who tries to come here would directly cause its destruction. So at most, the highest that can come here would be just 1 tier higher than me. Since you are so powerful, why don't you help us wipe out the beast race? Rin's eyes were filled with skepticism. It was very obvious she believed that wiping out the beast race would be an effortless task for Kazuki. I'm strong in your eyes, but I haven't reached the point where I can instantly eradicate all the beasts in your world in a short amount of time. Nor do I want to waste my time. Furthermore, this is a war between your plane and another plane. I have no right to interfere. Kazuki spoke with a mixture of truth and lies. Upon hearing this, Rin sat back down on the sofa in a state of dejection. At that moment, Haruka suddenly stood up with a grave and pleading expression, saying, Sir, please teach me your method of cultivation. As long as you can teach me, I am willing to do anything. The humans of your plane do not possess spiritual roots within their bodies. You simply cannot cultivate. Give up. Kazuki shrugged, then continued. So can we discuss the price of my item now? It just got drenched in heavenly thunder, so the price should be raised quite a bit, right? Rin took the refined iron. Looking at the fire patterns and purple lightning patterns on it, her heart felt incredibly heavy. Someone could effortlessly manufacture a premium material that they couldn't even dream of creating in their lifetimes. Just how earth-shattering must their forging inheritance be? Sir, I don't understand. If you are so strong, why do you still need money? Is there a conflict between me being strong and me being short on cash? I just arrived in your world. I can't exactly go around robbing and plundering people. I'm not that kind of person. Kazuki didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and hearing this, the master and disciple also had an epiphany. Soon, they completed the transaction. The final price settled at 80 million. As he was leaving, Haruka suddenly spoke up and asked, If we want to contact you, how should we reach you? Call this person. His name is Kazuki. He's my only friend in this world. Kazuki tossed a piece of paper to Haruka. Before stepping out, he suddenly turned his head and said, I quite like the autumn leaves. From now on, you can just call me Senior Momiji. I am already 2,000 years old, so it is only reasonable for you to call me Senior. Chapter 17. The Guinea Pig Ren. Hearing this, the two couldn't help but gasp. Good grief, 2,000 years old. The amount of shock they received today was far too much. So much so that they felt like they were living in a dream. By the time he returned to the hotel, it was already around midnight. Ren was lying on the bed, sleeping incredibly soundly. Kazuki did not rush to sleep. Instead, he took out the pile of medicinal herbs he had purchased earlier. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Flames rose between his hands. When he had time, he would have to pay another visit to Rin and Haruka to see if he could borrow their forging workshop to craft an alchemy cauldron. At 7 in the morning, a fully awake Rin stretched his limbs. He thought he would be greeted by the morning sunshine, but when he blinked his eyes open, he saw Kazuki standing there with a sinister grin. Brother Kazuki, that expression of yours makes me seriously question your preferences. With a face full of terror, Ren hurriedly sat up, deeply afraid that his backside might not be safe. Especially after spending several months together, he noticed that Kazuki had never once looked directly at any of the decent-looking girls in their class. Even when they passed by a beautiful woman outside and the eyes of the other 3 guys lit up, Kazuki always remained completely indifferent, acting as if he hadn't seen anything at all. It was hard not to suspect that there was something wrong with his orientation. What are you thinking? Bro, I am completely straight. Kazuki flipped Ren the middle finger, then pulled out a white pill. Before Ren could even react, he was pinned down by Kazuki, who forced the pill directly into his mouth. Brother Kazuki, don't! Brother Kazuki! Ren wailed and screamed, while Kazuki didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing that he had swallowed the medicine, Kazuki returned to his own bed and asked, How do you feel? What do you mean, how do I feel? I'm a normal guy. I'm asking how you feel after taking the medicine. Hearing this, Ren hurriedly began to carefully sense his body. Very soon, he let out a sharp cry and tumbled off the bed. It hurts. My body hurts so much. It's supposed to hurt. Kazuki nodded in satisfaction. The blood-refining pill, once consumed, would temper a person's blood. He had always been curious about whether these body-tempering pills would work on the people of this world, so Ren naturally became his guinea pig. Even if something went wrong, he could quickly perform emergency treatment. Ren let out one agonizing shriek after another, but even so, he never suspected that Kazuki was trying to harm him. Soon, stagnant blood began to ooze from his pores, and he quickly became covered in blood. After half an hour, the effects of the blood refining pill finally came to an end. Ren felt the changes within his body. He looked on in disbelief. Kazuki, what kind of medicine is this? Why do I feel like my entire body is completely light right now? There's an unspeakable sense of refreshment. As Ren spoke, he tried clenching his fist. You don't need to know what medicine it is, just know that it's a good pill. Go take a shower quickly. There are other pills waiting for you in a bit. Are the other ones going to be this painful too? No. The others aren't this painful. Receiving Kazuki's reply, Ren happily went to take a shower. After Ren entered the bathroom, Kazuki broke into a wicked smile. How could the pain of the blood-refining pill possibly compare to the absolute agony of the next few types? 10 minutes later, Ren came out after finishing his shower. The moment he stepped out, Kazuki tossed a naval refining pill straight at him. Without any hesitation, Ren swallowed it directly. And then, you lied to me. This pill hurts even worse than the last one. Ren felt his internal organs tearing apart, writhing on the floor in agony. The pain was beyond description. It's fine, it will pass. How long? About an hour. Brother Kazuki, you really are my own brother. An hour later, a completely exhausted Ren dragged himself up from the floor and bolted to the bathroom. It took half an hour for him to finish. When he came out, he was practically crawling. Seeing Kazuki holding another pill, Ren used his last ounce of strength to crawl toward the bed. Brother Kazuki, I beg you, let me go. I still want to live. However, Kazuki didn't let up. He forced a bone-refining pill into Ren's mouth. His bones were being tempered, a pain akin to insects drilling into his marrow. Another hour passed. Ren lay on the bed, feeling as if he were seeing an old lady beckoning him across a bridge to drink soup. She had a kind smile. He really wanted to go over, take a sip, and find release. Yet Kazuki fed Ren a body-refining pill. This pill was the final stage of physical tempering, affecting his skin and entire body. Ren used his final bit of strength to flip Kazuki the bird. He didn't even scream anymore. His throat was already raw from shouting. Luckily, the hotel's soundproofing was top-notch, or else people might have thought a murder was taking place. After finishing the body tempering, Ren found he had regained his strength. Moreover, he could clearly feel a huge difference in his body compared to before. He tried to jump with all his might and smashed his head against the ceiling, howling in pain. My God! Brother Kazuki, did you give me some kind of magic elixir? My physical strength is comparable to those special combatants now. Combatants were people who had awakened their internal systems. They focused on physical training, which was somewhat similar to the body cultivators among the immortals. Don't get happy too soon. The first set of pills is done. Now for the second set. Kazuki brought out the pills for tempering the soul. These were specially made for Ren, as he was a summoner and his mental state was more critical. Ren's eyes went hollow. He was already in despair. 3 days later, having lived on nothing but pills for the last few days, Ren finally stepped out of the hotel feeling like he had been reborn. Let's go. Don't forget what I said. Accompany me into the Gogyo mountain range to collect some things. Kazuki stretched, speaking as they walked. All right. Then the two caught a bus to the suburbs, intending to enter the Gogyo mountain range from the rural road. At the Aaron blacksmith shop, Ren and Haruka were staring at the phone number on the slip of paper, too afraid to call. For 3 days, they had tried every way to come up with a plan to forge a magical artifact using that refined iron, because they couldn't figure out what kind of magical artifact could maximize the potential of that divine metal. They wanted to ask Kazuki, but they were a bit afraid. After all, he was too mysterious and powerful. Furthermore, from just that one conversation, they could see his personality was extremely eccentric and impossible to fathom. Chapter 18, Dragon Vein. At sunset, on the outskirts of the Gogyo mountain range, two figures sat by a campfire, eating meat and chatting. Ren, although your physical quality has improved, you lack corresponding physical techniques. What kind of techniques do you want to learn? I can teach you. Why do I always feel like you're a begging monk passing down secret techniques from a wuxia novel, like some low-class expert? Don't change the subject. If you have to learn something, I want to learn that kind of light body technique from wuxia novels. Since we summoners have poor self-protection, if I could learn light body techniques, I could escape if I wanted to. Ren's words were very agreeable to Kazuki. After thinking for a moment, he quickly recalled a relatively eccentric technique he had obtained before. This technique did not require cultivation. It was created by a mortal, but it required an immortal to provide initial guidance. Once mastered, it could make the body as light as a feather, or even reach the point of walking on grass. Thinking of this, Kazuki beckoned Ren over. Before Ren could react, he slapped a palm against his chest. WTF! Sneak attack! Ren was slapped to the ground. Then he felt a burst of intense pain coming from his body. It turns out that when a person gets hurt enough, they get used to it. Like Ren right now, he just groaned on the floor, not reacting as intensely as before. The next morning, a figure darted rapidly through the forest. With each leap, he could clear 10 or even several dozen meters. Feeling the sensation of flying, he was thrilled. Brother Kazuki, this is too amazing. I feel like I've become an expert overnight, Ren cheered, landing lightly on a branch like a leaf. Kazuki watched with a slight smile. The physical foundation he had laid for Ren was already solid, and now, with this technique, his survivability had increased exponentially. Don't get cocky! We are here to find the dragon vein, not to play around. Ren nodded quickly, his eyes filled with anticipation. Dragon vein? Are there really legendary items there? Whether there are legendary items, we will know once we find it. Stay close. They moved deeper into the Gogyo mountain range, where the environment grew increasingly wild and dangerous. As they pushed forward, the spiritual energy in the air began to shift, growing denser and more chaotic. Kazuki knew they were approaching their target. The adventure had only just begun. Ren was incredibly happy. Kazuki walked along the dirt road, smiling without saying a word. Ren had asked him why he had so many strange items and ideas, and Kazuki's explanation was simply that he liked to study these things. Talent is a terrifying thing. Over the years, he had inadvertently accumulated such vast knowledge and developed various pills. Recently, it happened to be the stage for in vivo experiments, so it was Ren's turn to benefit. And Ren actually believed this explanation. As they were walking, Kazuki stopped in his tracks, his eyes lighting up. Ren, stop acting like a monkey and get down. I found what I was looking for. Hearing this, Ren didn't hesitate at all and hopped down beside Kazuki. Brother Kazuki, what did you find? Ren asked with curious confusion, while Kazuki could not hide the excitement on his face. I found the entrance to the underground dragon vein of the mountain range. Kazuki had lived in the immortal cultivation world for so many years, so naturally he understood feng shui. Every mountain range has a dragon vein underground, and the larger the mountain range, the larger the dragon vein. However, because dragon veins are deep underground, one can only enter through underground openings and caves. Dragon veins contain many precious treasures, and what he was most interested in right now was the essence of the dragon vein. What he lacked the most at the moment was a good sword. After about 10 minutes, Kazuki quickly found the entrance to the underground cave he had detected with his divine sense. It was a crevice located at the bottom of a large river. To enter, they would have to jump into the river. Ren, maybe you should just wait for me outside. There might be some danger inside. It's better if you don't go. If there's danger, I should go even more. Do you think I'm the kind of coward who would let his brother go into a dangerous place alone while I stand by? Ren showed a rare look of seriousness. Hearing this, Kazuki couldn't help but let out a wry smile. He tossed the other a breath-holding pill, and after consuming it, they both plunged into the rushing river. Thanks to the modification from Kazuki's pills, Ren could see clearly even under the water. Shortly after, guided by Kazuki, they arrived at the crack in the riverbed. Kazuki didn't hesitate and dived into the fissure, with Ren following closely behind. They swam deep until they entered an underwater current. A moment later, with a splash, both of them poked their heads out of the water. This was an underground pool located inside a cavern. We finally made it. Kazuki used flames to dry their clothes. Under the scan of his divine sense, the entire structure of the underground caves beneath the Gogyo mountain range appeared in his mind. Suddenly, Kazuki noticed something was wrong. He looked at Ren not far away and shouted urgently, "Ren, get out of the way!" No sooner had Kazuki spoken than a black shadow appeared before Ren. Fortunately, Ren's reaction speed was extremely fast. He jumped backward to dodge the attack. Ren looked closely and discovered that what was attacking him was actually a spider leg that was 3 meters high. Yes, just a spider leg. If the leg alone was 3 meters, how terrifying must the actual spider be? White webs followed quickly. Ren dodged quickly. It was thanks to his body being reinforced and modified by Kazuki. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to dodge the previous attack, let alone the webs. The rocks entangled by the spider silk were instantly crushed. Sure enough, this silk was not as soft as it appeared. Soon, both Kazuki and Ren saw clearly that this was a giant pale white spider, a monster staring at them. At a glance, Kazuki confirmed that this was a native beast of this plane, as there was no alien demonic energy in its body. In reality, most of the demonic beasts currently at war with humanity were local ones, whose strength had been forcibly boosted and controlled by alien demonic energy. As for the true alien demonic beasts, Kazuki had not encountered any yet. Since Ren was here, he couldn't show his true, overwhelming power. But that didn't mean he couldn't use other methods. Kazuki flashed, blocking the path when the giant spider rushed toward Ren. He pulled out a magic card. A high-tier magic card. Azure Wolf Demon King. A wolf's howl erupted from the card. Although the spider didn't have ears, the shockwave from the howl forced it back several steps. It was the first time Kazuki had used a magic card in actual combat. He used the card again, and hundreds of wind blades cut through the air toward the giant spider. However, although the wind blades hit the spider, they didn't cause any fatal damage. Kazuki realized that the combat power of this giant spider was likely high tier. Tusk! The giant spider hissed. Kazuki didn't use the Azure Wolf Demon King card again. The demonic energy inside was only enough for one more howl, which was useless. Looks like I'll have to use this to deal with you. Kazuki smiled faintly, and a Blood Scorpion Ant King magic card appeared in his hand. The giant spider sensed the threat and rushed toward Kazuki. Brother Kazuki, watch out! The one who should be careful is it. Blood Scorpion King's innate demonic technique. Blood-red mist drifted from the magic card. Upon touching this mist, the giant spider's body stiffened, and then its body began to melt and decompose rapidly, leaving only eroded remains lying on the ground. Chapter 19. Returning with a full load. A blank magic card absorbed the demonic energy from the giant spider. Now he had 2 high-tier magic cards, and there was also an ultra-tier magic card. It was wonderful. Brother Kazuki, was what you just used the legendary magic card? Ren, being poor, was full of curiosity. Kazuki nodded and then said, Ren, you are lucky. The treasures this spider guarded for who knows how many years will now benefit you. Benefit me? Ren was full of question marks, but Kazuki just smiled faintly without explaining further. He raised his hands, flames rising for light, and brought Ren to a cave opening on the rock wall nearby. The entrance was covered in spider silk. With a wave of Kazuki's hand, the webs burned away, revealing the cave inside. You've hit the jackpot. Kazuki walked into the cave and led Ren to the deepest part. A small, milky white puddle dripped water from time to time. The puddle in front of them was small, only the size of a palm, but this was authentic earth vein spirit liquid. It could only appear in large earth veins, and dragon veins were the top of the earth veins. It was inevitable that they would produce earth vein spirit liquid, but dragon veins were complex and spread throughout the underground mountains. Finding this spirit liquid was extremely difficult. Ren, stay here obediently and wait for me to return. Before I get back, you must drink all of this water. Just this little bit of water? I can drink it in a few gulps, Ren said with an indifferent expression. Kazuki, however, revealed a wicked smile. Young man, you really don't understand the value of this earth vein spirit liquid. After Kazuki used a bottle to store half of the liquid, he had Ren cup his hands and drink a small sip. The familiar pain immediately spread to every corner of his body. Is this another body tempering thing? Exactly, enjoy it. Kazuki smiled and left. Before leaving, he deliberately set up an array. This was to prevent other beasts from attacking Ren while he was away. It would take 10 days to half a month for all that spirit liquid to be consumed. Ren's body had been tempered by him. Otherwise, drinking this earth vein spirit liquid directly would have caused him to explode. Without Ren as a burden, Kazuki was unrestrained. With his late core formation stage power fully unleashed, he began to scavenge all kinds of heavenly treasures from this dragon vein. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Kazuki reached the very bottom of the dragon vein, which was also the deepest point. The bottom of the dragon vein was a small cavern. Walking into the cave, Kazuki saw what he had been looking for. A golden stalactite shone brightly in the dim cave. This was the essence of the dragon vein, the dragon crystal stone. This dragon crystal stone was 2 meters high. Kazuki was not the type to kill the goose that laid the golden eggs. taking half was enough. If he took it all, this dragon vein would lose its spirituality, and the vibrant Gogyo mountain range would gradually lose its vitality. Crack! He broke off half of the dragon crystal stone. Flames rose, and the dragon crystal stone was quickly refined and condensed into a piece of gold iron, dragon crystal iron. It's done! Kazuki was satisfied and put away the dragon crystal stone, intending to leave, but his brow twitched. He hadn't expected an unexpected harvest. Coming to a rock wall, Kazuki threw a punch. Crack! Boom! The rock wall shattered, revealing a narrow crevice behind it. Kazuki squeezed through. The firelight grew brighter and eventually, he arrived above a flowing river of magma. Whew! Kazuki didn't hesitate and jumped directly into the magma. Fortunately, there was no one else here. If someone saw him, their jaw would drop in shock. He searched in the magma river for a long time, and finally, he saw a cluster of golden flames. He hadn't expected there to be a spirit fire here. Although the spirit fire of the mortal realm was of little use to him, it could be used as a front for his magic strength, making it easier for him to slack off. Thinking of a wonderful life of slacking off, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. The ticket to slacking off! I'm coming! Kazuki reached out and grabbed the spirit fire, then swallowed it in one gulp. It had no taste and was a bit hot. More than half a month had passed since they entered the dragon vein. Two dirty figures, looking like they had just come out of a mine, poked their heads out from a cliff. Damn it, we finally got out. Brother Kazuki, shouldn't we go home now? I can't wait to go back and hatch these little guys, Ren said, shaking his backpack. While he was absorbing the earth vein spirit liquid in the cave, he had found 2 spider eggs left by the giant spider. He hadn't said a word, just threw out all the clothes in his backpack to bring back all the spider eggs. With the new year approaching, it was indeed time to go home. However, before returning, he had some things to take care of. Kazuki said a word, then brought Ren back to Gogyo City and stayed in their familiar hotel. Ren had been exhausted lately. He entered the hotel at 10 in the morning and fell asleep, but Kazuki went out. When he was near the Aaron blacksmith shop, he transformed back into Momiji. Ding-a-ling! The shop door was pushed open, emitting a pleasant chime. Aiko, who had been disinterested, looked up. After seeing it was Kazuki, she was startled, then asked with surprise and excitement. Senior Momiji, are you short on money again and want to sell us some good materials? I plan to borrow your forging room. I want to forge a weapon for my friend. Hearing this, Aiko was first stunned and then immediately realized that Senior Momiji was going to demonstrate their forging method. Without hesitation, Aiko hurriedly informed her master, Rin. The latter also rushed over. They had been struggling with how to forge that piece of refined iron to its ultimate potential. Now that Momiji was going to forge a weapon here, it was a God-sent opportunity. When Rin arrived, Kazuki was already standing in the forging room studying the forging equipment, quality testing instruments, quick freezers, cutters, and various other modern instruments. Kazuki curled his lips in disdain at the pile of flashy things. He went straight to the most primitive anvil. Beside the anvil was a water tank. This tank was transparent, made of special transparent crystal, so one could clearly see the situation inside. Kazuki waved his hand, and the water in the tank evaporated. Then, in the eyes of the two who were somewhat confused, Kazuki began. With a flip of his hand, the dragon crystal iron appeared. The dazzling gold iron made their eyes sting. Clang! When the dragon crystal iron was thrown into the waterless tank by Kazuki, flames surged up. Although the temperature of the flames was very high, the tank was not affected in the slightest. Soon, the dragon crystal iron melted into golden liquid under the burning of Kazuki's flames. Chapter 20. Returning home. The original transparent tank was for observing the changes in materials in water, so they could easily see everything that happened inside. 3 different metals were thrown into the fire by Kazuki and quickly melted, merging with the dragon crystal iron to form the prototype of a sword body. He then took out the sword hilt he had prepared earlier. Soon, the sword body and the hilt fit perfectly to form a semi-finished longsword. The longsword was placed on the anvil by Kazuki, and then his fists began to hammer on the glowing sword body continuously, with increasing speed, until the two found it hard to see his movements with their eyes, seeing only residual images intertwined. He hammered for a full half hour. Kazuki stopped. The anvil suddenly turned into iron powder. In fact, the anvil hadn't been able to hold up since the first hit. Kazuki had just been maintaining it with spiritual energy so it wouldn't collapse immediately. He took out a cloth and gently wiped the sword body. The sound of the sword ringing penetrated the house. Even the entire Gogyo city could hear it. He took out the prepared scabbard, and his first weapon in this world was completed. Rin's pupils contracted. This was the first time she had heard of and seen such a simple but stunning forging method. "Thank you for the help." Kazuki put away the longsword, cupped his hands, and was about to leave. "Wait, senior! Can you tell me the name of this sword?" Kazuki turned his head to look at Aiko and smiled faintly. "This sword is named Long Yuan." Kazuki left, but the two women had not recovered from the shock. A long time later, Aiko reacted and said, "Did Senior Momiji say just now that this sword is for his friend?" "He said he only has one friend in this world. That person is called Ren. I checked the phone number. It's from Sapporo, and that Ren is a high school student. This person is so close to the senior, his future is limitless. You and I must not offend him." There was even a flash of envy in Rin's eyes. If she could get guidance from the senior and learn advanced forging techniques, what would it matter if she gave everything she had? At the train station, after saying goodbye to Ren, Kazuki looked at Sapporo now, covered in heavy snow. It was already midwinter. Walking on the snow, he actually felt a bit homesick. He wondered if his parents could come back for New Year's this year to spend it with him. He bought a pack of cigarettes from the store, lit one, and stood on the street. Looking at the white snow falling in the sky, he thought of the long path of immortal cultivation in his previous life. He flew up from the mortal realm. Step by step, he climbed the stairs to become the legendary God Emperor. Was he happy being a God Emperor? No. After becoming a God Emperor, there was only endless loneliness and solitude. Home, that was a luxury he couldn't reach before. He couldn't remember what his parents looked like in his previous life, but it seemed to be very similar to his parents in this life. Perhaps this was the compensation from the heavenly Tao for him guarding the immortal realm. As the cigarette burned out, Kazuki took out the key and opened the door. However, he was stunned when he saw the person sitting on the living room sofa. This was a girl with hair reaching her waist, bright as a pearl and beautiful as jade, with an ethereal beauty between her brows. What was most attractive was her white hair. Whether in appearance or figure, she could be called a flawless piece of art. Even a fairy descending to earth wouldn't be more beautiful. Kazuki was mesmerized for a moment, but not because he was shocked by her beauty. It was because this girl looked so much like her. When Kazuki was in the mortal realm, he had a soulmate. They accompanied each other from the mortal realm to the immortal realm, but unfortunately, the God Emperor has only one person in his eternal years. In the long river of time, his soulmate eventually left him, but the girl in front of him looked really like her. "Hey, big brother, you're back!" Hina walked out of the kitchen and was pleasantly surprised to see Kazuki. Kazuki nodded and looked at the white-haired girl. But the other party didn't even look at him. "Big brother, she is my friend Kiyomi, whom I told you about before, so I just called her over for New Year's." Kazuki remembered this name. Hina came to live with him in the 5th grade. She had mentioned this Kiyomi, saying she was her best friend. "Better looking than you," Kazuki said with a smile, then walked into his room. Hina followed behind, chattering like an old mother. "Kazuki, you heartless thing. I cook and wash clothes for you every day, and you say that? Do you have any conscience?" "Ha ha ha!" Kazuki couldn't help laughing out loud. Then he reached out and flicked Hina's forehead and closed the door. Hina made a face at Kazuki's door. "Bleh! Stinky big brother. Someone like you will never find a girlfriend." Hina left Kazuki's door and sat beside Kiyomi. After Hina sat down, Kiyomi showed a faint smile. "Is this Uncle Ye-long's son? Kiyomi, do you have any way to change my big brother's personality?" I don't know why, but I felt like he just turned back into his previous lazy self. Hina looked at Kiyomi for help, but Kiyomi shook her head. Mud cannot stick to the wall. No matter how talented he is, without that heart, he will eventually be just rotten wood. He will definitely not have any great achievements in the future. Hina sighed helplessly. For dinner, Hina made a sumptuous feast to welcome her big brother home. "Still remember what I like to eat? As expected of my good sister, you understand me well." Hearing Kazuki's praise, Hina couldn't help but raise her somewhat flat chest. "Knowing my painstaking efforts, why don't you try hard to become stronger so I can have face when I go out?" "Trying hard is impossible. It is impossible to try hard in this life," Kazuki said with a smile while eating. Hearing this, Hina was about to get angry, but Kazuki threw something at her. After catching it in a hurry, she discovered that this was a silver bracelet. "This is a mid-tier magic tool I accidentally found while traveling. It can increase the speed of your ice magic condensation. Take it as a gift." Hina looked at the bracelet in her hand and was stunned. Then her eyes turned red and watery. "Big brother, you finally grew up and became sensible. Hina shook Kazuki's shoulders constantly, just like a mother seeing her child finally grow up and become filial. Kazuki was speechless. Was he very insensible before? Chapter 21, New Year. After eating, Hina cleared the dishes. Kazuki returned to his bedroom and sat on the windowsill smoking. Today, his mood was very complicated. Why would a girl who looked so similar to her appear? Is it a coincidence? Or? Kazuki finished his cigarette and walked out of the bedroom, finding Kiyomi sitting on the living room sofa, reading a book and drinking tea. Kazuki sat down opposite her and said with a smile, "Beauty, are you interested in chatting?" Hina in the kitchen saw this scene and raised an eyebrow. It was the first time she had seen her big brother take the initiative to speak to a woman of the same age. She didn't even wash the dishes. She hid behind the door and observed secretly. "I am not interested in chatting with someone like you. I have no interest in you." Kiyomi's tone was cold amidst the flatness. Kazuki's smile did not change when he heard this, but he got up and said, "Okay." Nonchalantly, he returned to the bedroom. Kazuki sat on the chair, looking at the snowy moonlight outside the window. The confusion and excitement in his eyes vanished. Sure enough, it's not her. Even if she reincarnates many times, whether she recognizes me or not, she would absolutely never say such things to a person with whom she has no grudge. Kazuki lay on the chair and slowly closed his eyes, but soon he opened them again, the corners of his mouth rising, his hands resting behind his head. It was only at this moment that he suddenly discovered that compared to Kiyomi, who looked just like her, it seemed that his younger cousin was more like her. In the previous life, he took care of her his whole life. In this life, she took care of him. Why think so much? Kazuki got up and went to the computer, then turned on the phone. On New Year's Eve, Kazuki and Hina were busy. Kazuki helped Hina cook, while Kiyomi continued sitting on the sofa reading a book. Kazuki had completely ignored Kiyomi, who had the familiar skin he recognized. Without the blessing of her appearance, Kazuki's attitude toward her was naturally much colder. Kazuki not only had no good feelings for Kiyomi, but even felt a little disdain. As a guest and a good friend of his sister, she was cold to him. Perhaps because of her personality and habits, Kazuki could understand, but his sister cared for her so much, showing warmth and care, truly treating her as a friend. And she? No response, still appearing as if they had nothing to do with her. As long as he had any verbal contact with the other party, she seemed to think he had ideas about her. "Scumboy, stay away. I have a banana stick for you." For the sake of his sister, Kazuki chose to ignore this person. Time flies so fast. Another year has passed. Hina sighed while cutting vegetables. Kazuki nodded and said, "Yes, time is so fast." New Year's Eve dinner. 3 people sat by the table. The countdown on the TV started. Outside, fireworks flew and firecrackers sounded. The countdown ended, and a new year began. "Big Brother Kiyomi, Happy New Year!" Hina cheered, and Kazuki also cheered, but Kiyomi remained as cold as ever. After eating, Kazuki and Hina went out for a walk. "Big Brother, Happy New Year! This is the New Year's gift I prepared for you." Hina handed a magic card to Kazuki, which stunned him. Hina grinned, showing her small tiger teeth. "I found out long ago that Big Brother has a habit of collecting magic cards. I spent a lot of effort to get this primary magic card. This gift is not bad." "It's indeed not bad." Kazuki smiled faintly. After taking the magic card, he took a jade pendant from his pocket and handed it to Hina. "The gift I gave you before was just a souvenir I brought back from traveling. This is the real New Year's gift." This was a jade pendant with Hina's name on it. It had an array that could protect her in times of crisis, and it also had a teleportation function. Kazuki could come to his sister's side at any time through this jade pendant. Hina was first stunned, then happily took the jade pendant. Seeing the excited Hina, Kazuki was very happy. Although they were only cousins, having lived together for so many years, there was no difference from being real siblings. The God Emperor had no worries. Now he had ties. It felt pretty good. The streets at night were quiet and peaceful. The air was filled with the gunpowder smell of firecrackers and fireworks, and every house was brightly lit. A lonely figure walked slowly down the street. The lonely figure appeared so striking and prominent in this city. Ren! Kazuki, walking on the street, suddenly discovered the lonely figure ahead. He was a bit surprised. "Brother Kazuki!" Ren turned his head happily upon hearing Kazuki's voice. The two looked at each other and smiled. Hina, who was beside Kazuki, naturally knew Ren, so she couldn't help but ask curiously, "Ren, why are you out alone?" "I was bored at home, so I thought I'd come out for a stroll." "Did you have an argument with your family?" Don't be angry with them. They just have sharp tongues but soft hearts. I'm the only one in my family, Ren said, scratching his head and smiling. Hearing this, Hina was stunned for a moment and quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't know about that. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. It's fine, I don't mind. Ren showed an indifferent attitude. Kazuki took a breath in his heart. The day before they went on their trip, Ren had personally buried his late grandfather. He was an orphan. According to him, he was picked up by his grandfather from a graveyard, yet he lived so cheerfully, which made even Kazuki feel admiration. Ren, have you eaten? I made too much food today. Go back, and I'll reheat it for you if you don't mind. Really? That would be great. Ren smiled very happily. Just like that, Kazuki and his sister brought Ren back. After eating, Kazuki let Ren sleep in his room. This new year has really been interesting, Kazuki thought to himself, unable to laugh or cry, and then he closed his eyes and fell asleep. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, Kiyomi left. Still looking? They've already left. Kazuki glanced at the slightly dazed Ren, feeling speechless. He really couldn't understand what was so good about this Kiyomi that could make Ren fall in love at first sight. Hearing this, Ren coughed and whispered, Kazuki, she is really beautiful. Little brother, I am truly moved. I wish I could marry such a beauty in the future. Keep dreaming. Kazuki flicked Ren's forehead, but he didn't care much in his heart. Chapter 22, Awakening, the Second Element. After a year, the third year of high school was nearing graduation. The big break bell rang, and Hiroshi rushed out of the classroom without a word. 5 minutes later, he returned looking lonely and sat back in his seat. How many times is this? Ren asked Renji curiously. The 8th time. He has been rejected 8 times since the beginning of this semester. Renji couldn't help but laugh out loud. In the second semester of the third year, nearing graduation, Hiroshi was afraid he would never see his secret crush, Sakura, again, so he started confessing crazily and then being crazily rejected. This guy had taken the spirit of perseverance to the extreme. I'm falling apart. Why? Is it because I'm not good enough? Hiroshi looked desperate. Was his love going to end before it even started? Suddenly, he thought of something, his eyes glowing as he looked at the three and asked, if I remember correctly, all 3 of you have already broken through to the intermediate mage level, right? The 3 nodded gently. They had all broken through recently. I'll find someone. We don't need to wait for the college entrance exam to awaken the second element. Let's go now. After saying this, Hiroshi went directly to the restroom to make a call. The 3 looked at each other and shrugged helplessly at the same time. Hiroshi was a ruthless guy. He actually managed to get them the channel and qualifications to awaken the second element in advance. In the awakening room, a middle-aged man placed 4 rhombic light blue crystals into their hands. These were awakening stones. They had used this before, so they were not unfamiliar with it. Brothers, who goes first? Hiroshi asked. Hearing this, Renji opened his mouth and said, damn it, I'll go first. Renji closed his eyes and gripped the awakening stone, carefully sensing his magical energy. A dazzling blood-red light appeared. The middle-aged man was stunned to see this. Blood element? Logically, the blood element only appears in the first element, right? The middle-aged man was a bit puzzled, but the other 3 didn't care. On the contrary, they felt it was very natural. The second person, Hiroshi, started awakening. A dazzling light cyan light appeared. Wind element. Good guy, he was already sneaky, and now he's even sneakier. The third was Ren's turn. Everyone was quite curious about what the guy who awakened the summoning element first would awaken for the second element. Soon, a light green light lit up. Dark green is the wood element, but light green is, holy crap, healing element, the 3 exclaimed. Good guy, so among all the elements, there are 2 support type elements. One is the summoning element, which is more support oriented, and the other is the genuine support type healing element. Huh? Ren, the person involved, was also a bit shocked. Healing element combined with summoning element? Good guy, I've lived for so many years, and this is the first time I've heard of someone awakening such a configuration. The middle-aged man stroked his chin. These little guys were really full of surprises. Now it was the turn of the last person, Kazuki. The awakening of his second element began. Everyone stared closely at the awakening stone in his hand. They were all curious about what element Kazuki would awaken. Kazuki held the awakening stone, feeling the magical energy in his body. He was also curious about what his second element would be. However, the awakening stone in his hand trembled. It clearly had a reaction, but no light appeared. This situation made everyone on the scene feel a bit awkward. only the knowledgeable middle-aged man let out a swear word. Damn! Isn't it said that the space element only has a tiny chance of appearing in the third element at the high level? Space element! Hiroshi and Renji exclaimed at the same time. Only Ren and Kazuki himself looked confused. Soon, under Hiroshi's explanation, the two understood what the space element was about. The space element usually only appears with a tiny probability when awakening the third element at the high level. It is also the most mysterious of all elements. Most of the magic in this element is related to space. It is an abstruse and profound element. In the history of Huaxia, fewer than 50 mages have awakened this element, and Kazuki was definitely the first person to awaken the space element as his second element. So that's how it is, Kazuki suddenly realized. But soon, Hiroshi said to Kazuki with a serious tone, "Brother Kazuki, I know you don't like trouble. The space element easily attracts the attention of others, especially various great families and forces. The fewer people who know about your space element ability, the better. Do you understand?" "Of course I understand." Kazuki nodded, indicating he understood, and then said, "If anyone asks what my second element is in the future, I'll just say it's the lightning element." After saying that, Kazuki used his magical energy and spiritual energy to conjure an arc of electricity in his hand. This scene stunned the three of them. Forgot to tell you, actually, when I awakened for the first time, I awakened 2 elements. It's just that using fire is exhausting enough, so I've always been too lazy to use lightning. Once Kazuki said this, Hiroshi and Renji went crazy. "A genius! What kind of genius is this?" Hiroshi shouted while holding his head, while Renji roared, "Damn it! Why does such talent exist in someone who is so lazy and likes to slack off? What's most hateful is that this guy is my friend. I can't beat him up." Looking at the two going crazy, Kazuki and Ren looked at each other and decided to stay away for now. Hiroshi sighed in his heart. Fortunately, the person they found this time was his family's confidant and wouldn't leak Kazuki's affairs. Otherwise, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. As for the middle-aged man, he was completely stunned and hadn't reacted yet. Time passed in a flash, the college entrance exam ended, and the admission letters arrived. Kazuki and Hina were admitted to the same university, Eastern Domain Magic Academy. Hiroshi, Ren, and Renji were also students at the Eastern Domain Magic Academy like them. Sitting at home and stretching, it was a rare summer vacation. He decided to stay at home for 2 months, because after going to university, there would be fewer opportunities to stay home. The base camp of the Demon God Palace. A bunch of losers! After reading the news from Sapporo, the palace master of the Demon God Palace was so angry that he smashed the coffee table. "Our patience is limited. Since you cannot take down Sapporo and offer us what we want, it is time for us to make a move." A hoarse voice came from behind the palace master. A humanoid demon race covered in green scales slowly walked out from the darkness of the passage. This demon was 3 meters tall, covered in green scales with a pair of dark green bat wings behind him, 2 horns on his head, and 2 pairs of long, narrow eyes with blood-red whites. He also had a tail behind him. It swayed from time to time. A mouthful of fangs was even more terrifying. The scarlet tongue reached out and licked his sharp claws, his eyes full of bloodthirsty excitement. One of the 12 protectors of the demon race, Ghostwing Demon King. Chapter 23, Sapporo Riot, Part 1. Akira watched the Ghostwing Demon King gradually move away, his heart sinking to the bottom. For the Demon God Palace to break Sapporo was the best outcome for humans, because they were ultimately human. But if the Ghostwing Demon King took down Sapporo, then Sapporo would definitely become a dead city. And the Ghostwing Demon King is one of the 12 great protectors of the demon race. So far, no human has ever killed a protector. Even with the demon race making a small move, humans were already helpless, although their Demon God Palace stood on the side of the demon race. But to be honest, they were ultimately human and had a bottom line. If they occupied human territory, humans could still survive. But if the real powerhouses of the demon race made a move, then human beings would be finished. Akira sat on the chair decadently. The demon race was attacking more than just Blue Star. They would not attack Blue Star wholeheartedly, and they were willing to watch humans kill each other, which is why the Demon God Palace appeared. But if there were no Demon God Palace and the demon race lost interest and launched a real attack, then the end of humanity would have arrived. Humans around the world were no match for it. Once its slaughter began, it would not end. Was humanity ultimately destined to perish? The Ghostwing Demon King walked into the portal between the demon world and Blue Star. Returning to his territory in the demon world, "My soldiers, follow me to slaughter the human race." the Ghost-Wing Demon King flew high with his wings folded. 10,000 Ghost-Wing demons flew out of the nest. Although these Ghost-Wing demons were only the lowest level, the worst one possessed intermediate strength. The Ghost-Wing Demon King let out a hiss, and 10,000 Ghost-Wing demons let out a hiss at the same time. 3 days later, in Sapporo, the military region's detection room suddenly issued a rapid and anxious alarm. The calm military region suddenly flashed with alarm bells. Red covered the entire military region. A spatial abnormality was detected. It was the demon race's teleportation array. The location of the teleportation array was confirmed to be the entire Sapporo. Level 1 alert! Level 1 alert! Everyone in the military region couldn't help but look at the sky above Sapporo. The next moment, their pupils contracted, and a sense of despair rose in their hearts. In the afternoon, Kazuki returned to school and took graduation photos. Walking out of the campus, from then on, they would completely leave high school and move toward a larger stage. Just when the other three were envisioning the future, Kazuki looked up suddenly, a look of surprise flashing in his eyes. What is that? Someone nearby discovered the anomaly in the sky. Everyone except Kazuki looked up. Then their pupils contracted and they froze on the spot. A blood-red formation shrouded the sky of the entire Sapporo, and a bloody smell permeated from it. Everyone stopped and looked at the blood-red formation in the sky. And right at this moment, "Hi!" a siren sounded in Sapporo. Level 1 warning, danger of city destruction. Renji blurted out. The moment the alarm sounded, the originally calm Sapporo suddenly fell into a panic. Demon race! It must be the demon race attacking Sapporo! Why? Isn't Sapporo very far from the border? Why was it attacked? I don't want to die! I don't want to die! The crowd in the street was already in chaos. Just at this moment, the fire department, police, and other departments had already begun to guide the masses to the safe zone. 10,000 black shadows whistled out from the blood-red formation, covering the sky and the sun. The demon energy was overwhelming. A sense of despair and suffocation permeated everyone's hearts. Weak humans. I'll give you a chance to struggle. In an hour, I will lead all my warriors to launch an attack in the East City. If you can block us and kill our demon warriors, you still have a chance of survival. If you can't block us, what awaits you is death. Ha 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 ha. The Ghost-Wing Demon King did not appear, but his voice spread throughout the entire Sapporo. His eyes became bloodshot from exertion. The hateful demon race! Are they trying to show their powerful strength to make the people of Sapporo feel despair? Kazuki, Hiroshi, let's separate and evacuate the crowd. After all, we are at least intermediate mages. The three looked at each other after hearing this, didn't say anything, just nodded gently. Then the four scattered in 4 directions and rushed into the crowd. In the safe zone, Hina was looking for Kazuki in the crowd with anxiety, but she couldn't find him. Big brother! Big brother! Hina couldn't find Kazuki and couldn't help shouting loudly, but no one answered. Don't worry. Your brother is someone who thinks about slacking off every day. He must be afraid of death. Maybe he is hiding somewhere in the safe zone, sleeping now. He will be fine. Sakura put her hand on Hina's shoulder and comforted her in a low voice. He will be fine, my big brother. He will definitely be fine. Hina nodded heavily, but tears couldn't stop flowing. She and Sakura both knew that if only Kazuki was not in the safe zone, it was very likely he found a quiet place to lie down. But the problem was that 4 of them disappeared at the same time now. Big brother, you must come back safely, Hina prayed in her heart. East City of Sapporo. Still can't reach Momiji? Daiki asked. Yumi shook her head helplessly. Momiji hasn't been reached for a year. It seems he should have already left Sapporo. After all, a person with his strength really doesn't need to stay here all the time. Daiki sighed, and the other teammates of the Heavenly Hawk Demon Hunter team also showed helplessness. All the hunter teams in Sapporo had gathered. Kenji stood in the middle of the crowd and shouted loudly, "This battle is related to the life and death of Sapporo. It's not terrible for us to sacrifice. What's terrible is that those demon beasts rush into the safe zone and kill our wives and children. For our families, we must rise up and resist. This battle must be won. This battle must be won. This battle must be won." The crowd shouted loudly. At this moment, everyone forgot their fear, and only the desire to fight remained. The military troops on the side were also cheering and helping out at this time. The supreme commander of the military region, Haruto, looked at his subordinates, and nodded gently. But then he looked at the blood-red teleportation array in the sky. At this time, 10,000 demon beasts were lingering in the air, like Death's sickle, ready to reap lives at any time. Why would a demon protector be mobilized to attack Sapporo? Haruto's heart felt despair. As a supreme-level, super-level mage, he knew the other party's strength too well. Super-level mages are also divided into grades. The doubling of magical energy possessed by a super-level mage is 1 star. That is, the difficulty of advancement for each star increases exponentially. And he is only 1 star. This demon protector is at least a 20-star existence, while the highest-level person in Waxia is only 9 stars. Just as Haruto was a little distracted, a voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Soldier Renji requests the commander's approval to join the battle. Chapter 24. Sapporo Riot. Part 2. Renji appeared behind Haruto, but Haruto was not shocked, just sighed helplessly. Renji, with your talent, there's no need to take this risk. If you die, I really have no face to see your grandfather and your parents, although I probably won't survive either. A touch of indulgence appeared in Haruto's eyes. This child was raised by him, and he knew what kind of personality he had. Commander, even if I hide in the safe zone, I will still fight if this place falls. Instead of dying in a desperate situation, it's better to die on the battlefield. Since that's the case, I agree to your participation in this battle. Haruto nodded with satisfaction, worthy of being Old Master Han's grandson and Old Brother Han's son. This blood is simply inherited. Hey, Renji, you brat, you wouldn't have forgotten us, would you? An angry voice came. After hearing the voice, Renji was stunned for a moment, then turned his head and shouted loudly, Hiroshi? What are you doing here? Hurry back to the safe zone. Renji's words stopped abruptly, because he didn't just see Hiroshi, but also Kazuki and Ren. How can such excitement lack me, Ren? Ren showed a smile, his honest expression the same as ever. I can't let these demons destroy my home, otherwise, how can I stay home? Kazuki also showed a helpless smile. I don't care if I die on the battlefield. Who wants you to care? These demons are nothing to worry about. After winning this battle, we will eat roasted meat. My treat! Hiroshi was calm. Renji looked at the 3 people in front of him, turned his head back, and didn't look again. Trying to control the tears in his eyes so they wouldn't flow out. To have such friends in this life. Haruto looked at the 3 teenagers who appeared in front of him and felt a little confused. He arranged for Renji to enter the school. He had naturally investigated these 3 people, but because he had investigated them, he didn't expect that they would dare to come here, that Ren was just an ordinary person, but Hiroshi and Kazuki had great backgrounds. Hiroshi was the 2nd young master of the Lai family, one of the 4 great families in the central domain, living in luxury like a local emperor, yet he was willing to come to the battlefield because of his friend Renji. Even he didn't have the authority to view Kazuki's files. The background didn't need to be said. You really have made 3 good brothers, Haruto said, feeling a bit envious of Renji. The agreed time arrived. All the ghost-winged demons in the sky had gathered in East City. On one side were humans, and on the other were demons. Stupid humans, take a good look at how you are exterminated by our demon race. The ghost-winged demon king inside the blood-red formation pointed his finger. Instantly, the satellite live broadcast was forcibly opened. All imaging equipment in the safe zone began to play the East City battlefield scene at the same time. But soon the video was suddenly cut off. Trying to confuse people's hearts? Do you think I will let you succeed? Forcibly turning off the satellite signal, Haruto sneered. This battle was doomed to failure, and they must not let the outside world know everything that happened here, which would cause panic and eventually lead to the collapse of human social order. Interesting. The ghost-winged demon king stuck out his scarlet tongue, then stood up, waved his hand, and said, Attack! Wipe out all humans! Yi! 10,000 ghost-winged demons let out a hiss upon hearing this and charged rapidly toward the human troops in front. Exterminate the demon race! Protect my Waxia! Both sides broke out in war in the central area of East City. Fighter jets roared across the sky, wanting to attack the demon beast downwind. However, a few ghost-winged demons quickly surrounded them and shot down the fighter jets. For a time, artillery fire flew and screams were constant. Die for me! Renji held a metal baseball bat and hit the abdomen of an intermediate ghost-winged demon hard. At the same time, countless light spots whizzed and hit the ghost-winged demon. Hiss! 2 white jade spiders as tall as a person led undead creatures to help other soldiers around. 10,000 ghost-winged demons facing more than 100,000 human mages were not afraid. On the contrary, they became braver as they killed. More than a dozen people besieging one ghost-winged demon might not even be able to take it down. The gap between the real alien demons and the locally modified demon beasts was really too big. Even if the opponents were intermediate demon beasts, they could simultaneously confront several human intermediate mages. Not to mention the opponents were at least intermediate. 1/10 of them were even high level, a full 1,000. But on the human side, intermediate ones were few and far between, not to mention high level ones. Boom! Haruto radiated dazzling thunderlight, and together with other high-level mages, faced the enemy's elite. Even as a high-level mage, he could hardly parry. The number of high-level demon beasts was too large. It was simply not something he and a few high-level mages could contend with. At the same time, on the other side of the intermediate battlefield, a ghost-winged demon fell heavily to the ground after being besieged by the four. But soon, 3 more ghost-winged demons that successfully broke through came around them. Damn it, it looks like we are going to be planted here today. Sorry to have implicated you. Renji wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, feeling somewhat guilty. Why say that? We were all willing to come. If this battle fails, we can't escape the fate of inevitable death anyway. It's not easy to die on this battlefield. Hiroshi stood straight. Even if they are enemies, he would never retreat. That's right. Anyway, I, Ren, have no ties. To be able to die on the battlefield to protect my home and country can be considered meaningful. Who said we were going to die? Don't tell others about my strength. Otherwise, I won't be able to stay home in the future. Kazuki spoke suddenly. The long yuan sword appeared in his hand. Puff! Puff! Blood splashed. Kazuki actually chopped a ghost-winged demon in half with one sword. Before the 3 could react, Kazuki swung his sword twice more. The speed of the sword was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already chopped off the heads of 2 ghost-winged demons. The ghost-winged demon in the air flapped its wings, and the demon wind attacked, carrying great power. However, Kazuki only needed one sword to split this demon wind. The 3 of them opened their eyes wide in disbelief. Forgot to tell you, during the second awakening, I still awakened 2 elements, and the second one is the space element. Kazuki smiled faintly. I'm going to steal the spotlight today. He looked at the high-level battlefield in the distance. The main body has arrived, right? Taoist technique, external incarnation. What is currently on the intermediate battlefield is not Kazuki's main body, just an incarnation. High-level battlefield. A bloody wound was scratched on Haruto's chest by a ghost-winged demon. More than a dozen ghost-winged demons surged toward him, looking like they were going to tear him to pieces, and the other high-level mages were now either wounded or crippled. Was Sapporo truly destined to be destroyed? Haruto closed his eyes in despair. But just then, have you had enough? Kazuki blocked the path in front of Haruto. With a wave of his hand, dozens of ghost-winged demons instantly turned into ashes and burned away. Haruto's pupils contracted, his face full of disbelief. Being the closest, he could truly feel the terrifying aura emanating from the mysterious masked man in front of him. This battle should end now. Kazuki was dressed in green robes, the attire he wore when he was in the God Realm, which was completely out of place with the style of this world. The green-robed figure flashed and vanished into mid-air. Before anyone could react, they saw Kazuki wave his arm, and all the ghost-winged demons ignited in raging flames, turning into ashes. If it weren't for the dilapidated city streets around them, everyone wouldn't even believe that demon beasts had invaded earlier. Were they dreaming? After seeing this, the ghost-winged demon king couldn't help but be stunned. Since when did humans have such a powerhouse? Kazuki looked toward the blood-red teleportation array in the sky. It was as if he were staring directly at the ghost-winged demon king. This is truly interesting. A bout of frantic laughter suddenly erupted from the blood-red teleportation array. The sound shook the heavens and earth, spreading throughout all of Sapporo. Then, a dark green figure flew out from the blood-red array and stared at Kazuki in the sky. 2 distinct auras clashed violently together. For a moment, everyone below felt their breathing become difficult. The fear of death rose in the bottom of everyone's heart. The ghost-winged demon king flapped his wings, and hundreds of dark green wind blades whistled toward Kazuki simultaneously. Feeling the power contained in those wind blades, Haruto could be certain that if it were him facing even one, he wouldn't be able to catch it. Yet, Kazuki simply waved his hand, and the hundreds of wind blades instantly dissipated in the air. You are qualified to be my opponent. The face under Kazuki's mask revealed a trace of excitement. He could feel that the opponent's strength was almost on par with his own at the late Golden Core stage. It is truly not easy to meet an opponent in this world. Arrogant human! The Ghost-Winged Demon King transformed into a green ray of light and dove rapidly toward Kazuki. Kazuki did not hesitate, transforming into a green ray of light to clash and attack the Ghost-Winged Demon King repeatedly in midair. Crush! In the blink of an eye, the two had already exchanged moves several times. Everyone on the ground could not believe their eyes. What kind of existence was this? Go to hell! The Ghost-Winged Demon King's body emitted a burst of dark green demon aura. His body expanded rapidly, actually transforming into a behemoth of 100 meters. This was his true form! Boom! The Ghost-Winged Demon King threw a punch. Kazuki pinched a seal with both hands, and an awe-inspiring righteousness surged from within his body like a heaven-shaking sea wave. It transformed into swords filling the sky to meet the Ghost-Winged Demon King. Everyone evacuate the East City! Haruto shouted loudly. The people who were still in a daze finally reacted. The current battle was no longer something they could participate in. Without any hesitation, everyone retreated from the East City as fast as they could. By the time they retreated, Kazuki and the Ghost-Winged Demon King had already exchanged 5 blows, and for a time, they were evenly matched, neither able to defeat the other. The blood that had been silent for countless years burned once again. Kazuki's eyes were filled with the desire for battle. Human, I admit you are strong, but I am even stronger. The Ghost-Winged Demon King stomped hard on the ground, and the entire Sapporo felt like it was having an earthquake. The buildings in the East City, already dilapidated, began to collapse one after another. More than a dozen 100-meter pillars of light formed by green demon aura surged from the underground, attempting to annihilate Kazuki. However, if Kazuki only had this much strength, then he would have been a god emperor in his previous life for nothing. Dharma, heaven and earth! Kazuki cast a seal with his hands and a golden radiance shone down. Boom! The green pillars of light instantly vanished, replaced by a 100-meter golden giant in golden armor, wielding a golden longsword, his skin and eyes also glowing with dazzling golden light. This was his appearance as the God Emperor on the battlefield of gods and demons in his previous life. The people who evacuated from the East City didn't go far. They were all watching this battle. The appearance of the Golden Giant was like the descent of a saint, representing that humanity would eventually end this painful, chaotic era. Boom! Their fists clashed with a loud sound. With the Dharma Heaven and Earth active, Kazuki's strength was fully unleashed. He stepped back and swung his golden longsword. The Ghost-Winged Demon King flapped his wings and flew high. He unleashed 3 demon techniques at once. Out of thin air, 10,000 green bats appeared and surrounded Kazuki. Sand flew, rocks tumbled, and wild winds raged. Countless wind blades struck Kazuki, but he didn't care. Those green bats also turned into ashes upon touching the golden light. The piercing roars instantly turned bricks and mortar into dust. Facing such an attack, Kazuki remained unmoved. He merely retracted the sword he intended to swing, changing it to a straight thrust. One sword breaks 10,000 laws! The golden sword energy instantly pierced through the body of the Ghost-Winged Demon King. His face was full of disbelief and shock. Impossible! This is impossible! Why would there be such a terrifying existence as you in this human world? The Ghost-Winged Demon King roared, and his body vanished rapidly, like darkness at dawn. Click! The blood-red formation in the sky disappeared, replaced by the sunset glow. We won! We won! Everyone who witnessed this battle cheered. Renji danced like a gorilla. The other two were no better. Ren even picked up his white jade spider and kissed it fiercely. Only Kazuki revealed a faint smile on his face. The members of the Heavenly Hawk Demon Hunter team looked at Kazuki, who had already canceled the Dharma Heaven and Earth, and gave a bitter smile. So he was actually this strong. No wonder he always felt so mysterious. Truly a fascinating man. Yumi shook her head and smiled bitterly. Daiki, on the other hand, sighed. His power was clearly not the power of a mage. The demon leader was right. How could our blue star humans possibly have such a powerful existence? Looking at him, I'm afraid he is a neutral party. If the trouble hadn't reached him, would he have even made a move? Everyone thought the matter was over. However, who would have thought that at this very moment the originally clear sky would suddenly condense thick black clouds? In the blink of an eye, the clouds shrouded the entire Sapporo. The crowd, who were still cheering under the twilight, were all stunned. Only Kazuki revealed a helpless, bitter smile. He didn't expect that after the fight, he would have broken through to the nascent soul stage. He looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Kazuki didn't feel any fear. A bolt of white heavenly lightning suddenly descended. Not only did Kazuki not dodge, but he welcomed the heavenly lightning. This scene left everyone stunned. Within a month, Sapporo no longer showed signs of being invaded by the demon race, as if everything had returned to peace. Nascent soul tribulation. The entire East City turned into a lightning field when the tribulation ended. No one knew who that person was or where he had gone. Chapter 26. Ancient ruins of Sapporo. Demon realm, royal palace. The demon emperor looked at the extinguished soul lamp. The ghost-winged demon king was dead. He didn't expect that this blue star actually had an existence that could kill the ghost-winged demon king. The demon emperor did not order stronger protectors or generals to go to Blue Star to avenge the ghost-winged demon king, but instead ordered the demons in the demon realm not to worry about this blue star for the time being. They had invaded hundreds of worlds, and Blue Star was just one of the most insignificant ones. They were not sure about the strength of that existence now. When they had conquered the other worlds, they would put their focus on this blue star. In his bedroom, Kazuki looked at the magic card in his hand, with the image of the ghost-winged demon king. Fortunately, his breakthrough to nascent soul stage allowed him to modify the magic card along with the guy's soul and power, otherwise he would have really lost such good magic card material. He had discovered earlier that magic cards could only absorb beings below the super level. Ordinary magic cards simply couldn't control a super level existence. Of course, this problem was just a minor matter he could solve with a wave of his hand. Big brother, school starts in a month. You better hurry up and cultivate. The Eastern Domain Magic Academy is not a place you can just slack off to graduate. The familiar sound of footsteps came. Kazuki revealed a helpless, bitter smile and agreed, putting the Ghost-Winged Demon King's magic card into his card album for safekeeping, adding another one. Now he had 2 super-level cards and 12 high-level cards. The high-level magic cards were mainly obtained by killing demon beasts in the dragon vein. He had long heard that some people turned magic cards into a game, but there weren't many people playing in their second tier, near third-tier city. After all, those who play with magic cards are wealthy. Only first-tier cities have formal competitions in offline groups. However, it was said that one needed at least 20 cards to meet the minimum participation standard. Of course, he certainly had enough of the 20 magic cards. Just as he put away the card album, Kazuki's phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. After answering, a mature woman's voice came from inside. "Is this Kazuki?" "Yes, it is." "Hello, my name is Sayaka. Momiji told me that if I had any matters, I should call you." Oh, you mean my master? If you have something to say, just say it." Sayaka, on the other end of the line, was stunned upon hearing this. Master? This Kazuki was actually Momiji's apprentice? That is, Your master wanted to ask if there is any way to bring the refined iron with thunder and fire patterns he sold us to its ultimate potential. Is that all? You haven't researched it for more than 2 years? He then casually said, quote, "When forging, use fire and lightning to stimulate it, and when it is at its peak, have a magic array master set up a magic array on it. And that's it. You also understand the method of forging. That is truly great. I heard you were admitted to the Eastern Domain Magic Academy, and I am a teacher of the forging course there. You must choose my class when the time comes. We'll talk about it later." Kazuki hung up the phone and got up to leave the house. After his divine sense became stronger, he suddenly discovered an existence in Sapporo that he hadn't noticed before. The demon race's obsession with Sapporo seemed to be because of this place. On the other side, after Sayaka hung up, the excitement on her face could not be concealed. She didn't expect that Master Momiji would have taken Kazuki as an apprentice. If this were true, he must possess the inheritance of forging from another world. In the future, there would inevitably be a tremendously powerful master blacksmith. Kazuki arrived at the place scanned by his divine sense. Upon arriving, he was stunned. It wasn't because this place had become a construction site being excavated, but isn't this Ren's home? Remembering that half a month ago, Ren told him he had money because his house was demolished, and he became a demolition household. Ren's grandfather owned an entire cemetery which was given to Ren after his death. Now this cemetery, along with Ren's house, was demolished. The money given was naturally self-evident. Could it be that someone has already discovered this place? Kazuki scanned with his divine sense and discovered that some people had already entered the ruins underground. Stroking his chin, he decided to go in and take a look before those people reached the center of the ruins. His figure disappeared, and Kazuki instantly arrived at the depths of the ruins. Hoo! Flames ignited, lighting up all the torches in the ruins hall. This was a ruined space, the size of a football field. It looked like a natural cave, but it was full of traces of artificial carving. In the center of the ruins were two stone statues. One was a demon statue, and the other was a human statue. The demon was more than 10 meters tall, while the human was only about 1.7 meters. That was a woman dressed in robes, arms spread out like a saint. Opposite her was a human-like monster with wings on its back and two horns on its head, a typical demon appearance. The robed woman looked victorious, but it was clear she was also at her wits' end. The demon opposite her, although sitting on the ground as if a loser, was looking up and laughing. With Kazuki's cultivation, he quickly saw that both the saint and the demon were stone statues formed from their physical bodies after death. The saint's power remained, while the demon only had this useless stone shell left. "Who are you?" Suddenly, at this moment, a voice came from behind. Kazuki turned his head and saw a white-clothed girl wearing a veil looking at him. Although she was wearing a veil, Kazuki saw through her appearance at a glance. She was actually more beautiful than Kiyomi. And how did he feel that this woman looked somewhat similar to the saint in the statue? "I am just a traveler who arrived here unintentionally." Kazuki waved his hand very indifferently and then continued to observe the two stone statues. "This is not a place where ordinary people should stay. You should leave. Someone will send you out." Although the girl said this, she knew clearly in her heart that how could someone who could arrive at this place without a sound be an ordinary person? I was clearly the one who arrived here first. Okay? Forget it. I don't care to argue with you. You must be here for the power inheritance within this statue, right?